News Talk 710 KNUS.
6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You have tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on this very Friday, April 26th. Bill was up late. I was not up. I wonder if Blake was up late watching the Broncos pick. Bo Nix.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Get Blake's thoughts on that in just a second. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's going to be a great day in America's greatest city, and we're gearing up for a whole another morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Joining us in just a second, you know the name, Kristi Burton Brown, former chairwoman of the Colorado Republican Party here in Colorado. She's an attorney, and she's going to give us an update on the Supreme Court cases yesterday. That case, Donald Trump, presidency, immunity, all that stuff she's going to give us an update on. Then we'll get into the Trump trials as well. In the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about the series of ballot initiatives that are going on in Colorado that could prevent men from competing in women's sports, protect children from the trans surgeries prior to becoming an adult. So we'll get into that in the 9 o'clock hour, plus all the news and updates, even and a special agent in charge for the Drug Enforcement Agency joining us to talk about Saturday's National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. We'll ask him about how the drug stuff is going in Colorado. So great show, full of news, full of great personalities. You're going to want to stick with us for all 4 hours. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
TGIF.
Yeah, there you go.
Good morning. 47 and cloudy in Denver. Expecting mostly cloudy skies and highs in the upper 60s today. The 7-10-5-day forecast. Coming up, our top story, three houses struck by lightning, sparked fires in Evergreen Field and Erie on Wednesday. Thankfully, no injuries. First tornado of the season touchdown near Akron, northeastern Colorado, home of the Rams, by the way. No damage or injuries reported. Pro-Hamas supporters gathered at Denver's area campus on Thursday for a rally to show how much they hate Jews. About 6 months ago, students were treated with these types of people handing out pieces of paper that said death to Jews following October 7th. The Supreme Court is considering whether former President Trump is immune from criminal prosecution for acts they say he took in office centered around federal election interference charges. Attorneys are prosecuting a president for official acts is incompatible with the Constitution. The special counsel attorney says the Constitution does not grant the president absolute immunity. Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett.
Let me ask you about state prosecutions, because if the president has some kind of immunity.
Sound bad, Billy?
Yeah, that's
doggone it. Gonna have to clean it up again. All right, that was a good point. She was talking about the states and Fonnie Willis and Alvin Bragg, basically, and we'll talk about how ridiculous that show trial is going in here from Attorney Turley on that one. The sleepy Joe Biden administration is telling House Speaker Mike Johnson it's up to state governors to decide if the National Guard is needed to subdue pro-Hamas supporters on college campuses. Johnson called on the president to call in the National Guard after seeing the danger firsthand on Wednesday. Johnson said there's an appropriate time for the Guard if the protests aren't contained quickly. Now, Florida Governor DeSantis warning college students in Florida not to illegally protest on campus. DeSantis posted, if you try that at a Florida university, you are going to be expelled. I like it. Take the bull by the horns. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at Lair Fireplace and Patio. Lair Fireplace Patio.com. It is 42 in Boulder, 43 in Castle Pines, 47 in Denver. We'll hear from the head coach of the Broncos since the computer's not working right now. Get it cleared up. The Broncos selected former Oregon Auburn quarterback Bo Nix with the 12th pick in the NFL draft last night. He's a playmaker, strong arm. Good head on his shoulders, a leader, 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions last season. And where the Broncos are, I mean, they just need players.
Is this a solution, do you think? What do you think?
I mean, anytime you take a quarterback, you have to give him 2 or 3 years. And if he turns out, to be the starter in year one, then that's a miracle. You have to give him time to develop. But I mean, he's a mature quarterback, played a lot of football. At the highest level that you can play in the SEC and the Pac-12. So, obviously they need, they want depth there. And they just traded for
Zach Wilson.
New York, who has plenty of potential, but he's had a roller coaster career as well. So I don't have a problem with it. But it's not gonna look. You can't expect it for him to be the savior next season. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah. Bronco fans have got to embrace. Probably it's going to be maybe a 500 season for good next year. It depends. I was hearing a lot of things. Colin Cowherd, who I was sometimes saying that Denver is an ideal landing spot for Bo Nix because of how Sean Payton can develop him. Didn't say will, but said of all the places he can land, this is a better spot. And the argument being made with things like Mac Jones in New England, that if Mac Jones may have landed in somewhere like Shanahan in San Francisco, it would be a different situation. He would have been groomed differently. And so they basically was saying that the number of NFL players that end up being cut from the league simply because they're in the wrong place in the wrong situation, they say it's remarkable.
I totally agree with that. The environment, the coaching staff, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, and basically, how he feels overall. How does he feel going to his condominium from the facility? Traffic. I mean, there are all these things. Going to play. I know it sounds silly, but with the quarterback, it's important. It really is. Yeah. I think the location, it's like real estate, right?
Oh, yeah.
Location. So
speaking of location,
in a good spot.
Mayor Mike Johnston was at the draft yesterday.
Why was he there?
Why?
He was in the crowd.
Dude, I'll tell you what.
He was in
people washing windows off the streets, right? What are you doing? I don't need you there. Do you have a Broncos car or truck or something like that? It was stolen.
Yeah, he had a car stolen. But
do we need another mayor getting all running around in Broncos mascots?
Yep. He was wearing a jersey. He was cheering in the crowd.
Kidding me? I didn't see that. Did the local news lead with it?
Oh, of course not. But our friends did better than
I did not see that. It is.
I'm sorry. The draft is interesting, but the people that show up there as a crowd, I'm like, don't you have a hobby or something? And I'm like, this is on TV, right? Yeah. Change channel. You don't have to stand there and scream until your team picks. Or other things have to happen.
The best seat in the house is in your living room.
Yes.
I mean, 2 years ago, the best draft that I was ever involved with, my best friend's nephew, who was our neighbor, and we all grew up together, our families. He was drafted by the Jags 2 years ago. Chad Moon, linebacker. So we're in the living room, and I'm sitting there. Everyone. There's probably 50, 60 people in the living room. And I'm thinking to myself, these people at the draft. This kid's getting drafted to play.
Yes.
And he's on the couch in the living room.
Yeah. He's in to close the circle. Brandon Tatum, who was with us oddly enough 1 week ago today, Black in Castle Rock, told the story about how he was expected to be taken late draft, second day. And that happened to be his birthday. So he threw a huge party in his house. He was expecting to be drafted by the Raiders, and then they called and said, looks like it's not going to happen. And he's on his birthday. Yeah. It's going to be so hard. Yeah.
Goodness. John Howell, who played for CSU, 20, I don't know. 24 years ago, I was at his house when he was drafted. And the electricity goes out right before the phone rings. No cell phone. No one had a cell phone.
Oh my God!
One of the greatest guys ever. His son plays CSU now, but right before the Buccaneers are about to call him, the electricity goes out.
That's
no phone, waiting on the landline to get stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the draft and you dress up like it's Halloween or the mayor. What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm sorry. All right. Hey, basketball. The Nuggets lead the Lakers 3 games to none. 112-105 over LA. Aaron Gordon, 29 points, 15 rebounds. Man, they look good. Avs tried to take 2 games, 1 lead over Winnipeg tonight. In Lodo, game 3 of their opening round Stanley Cup playoff series. And the Rockies scored 6 runs at the bottom of the 8th. They rallied past Padres 10-9. Astros in town tomorrow. All right, TGIF, I'll reboot this computer, Billy, and hopefully we'll get to get going. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I
figured since you lost all your audio, we can do a little chatting.
Yeah, I was talking to him. Dude, I have this one thing I want to do with you. Great minds.
Saturday, early Sunday, wet heavy snow up into the higher foothills, the mountains. Temps today, mid-60s, stiff northwest winds, 10 to 30. Lows tonight, low 40s, upper 40s, low 50s for highs Saturday, mid to upper 50s Sunday, 60s to 70s for highs Monday and Tuesday.
I'm meteorologist Mark Huer on 710 KNUS.
Jeff and Bill on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Big day yesterday for Donald Trump. Multiple trials taking place. Big one at the U.S. Supreme Court. Does Trump or the presidency, does the office of the presidency have immunity when it comes to kind of federal prosecution or not? Giving us an update on this is Kristi Burton Brown. She's executive vice president of Advance Colorado, former chairwoman of the Colorado Republican Party in Colorado, and an attorney. Kristi, thanks so much for being on the program.
Yeah, welcome.
All right. I think we got you. Do we got you, Kristi?
Yeah.
All right, great. Kristi, so give us an update. Why was this a big case at the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday?
Sure. I mean, for a whole lot of reasons. And one particularly interesting thing is the arguments at the court went about double the time the justices usually allow for oral arguments. It went 2.5 hours, which is a very, very long time to sit there and be questioned. The Trump attorneys actually refused the opportunity to do a rebuttal, which is somewhat interesting strategy-wise. But this case is so interesting because, of course, President Trump is facing multiple trials in multiple states. This is a federal case that he has challenged, saying that Jack Smith, the prosecutor, cannot prosecute him for specific things because they were done in the course of his official duties as a president. And so, of course, this raises a huge issue. Do presidents have immunity? If they do, to what degree? And if they don't, does that open the door to future presidents just helping political prosecutions happen against their former rivals, which, of course, many, many people think is exactly what's going on here with Trump and Biden.
Yeah, so the extremes on either side of this are things that people don't want, right? So on one side, and they've made this case, okay, well, who can the president assassinate in his, quote, personal capacity because he can't be brought up on charges for it? And then on the other side, you can't have a presidency weighed down entirely by politically driven lawsuits that hamper him from being able to do his job. So your sense of where the justices fell along this line?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were split. And I think it'll be interesting to see also when they come out with this decision, because if they do wait until June, which is often when they give their big decisions, that will postpone almost certainly the trial that's at issue here with President Trump, which would, of course, be good for the president and not so good for those who are opposed to him. I think, one thing that's important to point out, I think Trump's lawyers made it very clear that they were not arguing that a president should have immunity for anything done in his personal capacity or anything that's outside his official acts. A lot of people think they're arguing for absolute immunity. They're not. They're specifically saying it should be for official acts. And I think where the justices may come down is sending it back to the lower courts and saying they need to figure out exactly what the lines are for official acts and not official acts, especially because a lot of things involved in this case have to do with discussions that President Trump had, some with members of his official administration, people in the Justice Department. Some conversations were had with people on his campaign staff or lawyers that were brought in to assist him on the election side rather than the official side. So it's all sort of mixed together. And some of the justices were indicating they didn't think the lower courts did an adequate analysis of, did this cross the line from official into personal? Did it not? And so it's, in some ways, it's kind of a mess if you believe that the lower courts didn't do an adequate analysis of the personal versus official. I think because the justices are so split, that may be a middle ground where they come back and say, hey, no one wants absolute immunity for a president, but we also don't think you can just open up a president and all of his decisions to prosecution later on and bring a bunch of political prosecutions in the US. So, hey, we need an actual standard, official versus personal. And this is also somewhat muddy because the Constitution itself does not directly grant presidential immunity. It's based in a lot of historical traditions and just somewhat common sense and principles laid out in the Constitution rather than an express granting of immunity. And that is why an analysis may be necessary. If I had to guess, and again, this was 2.5 hours of oral arguments and a whole lot of questions from multiple justices, but that'd be my guess of where they're going to go, is put it back to the lower court for some better analysis.
Talking with Kristi Burton Brown, she's Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado and former chairwoman of the Colorado Republican Party here in Colorado. Put yourself in the prosecution's or Jack Smith's shoes right now and make the case that presidents shouldn't be above the law and that there is a role to hold them accountable if they do something illegal, that we need to prosecute them. Is that the line of arguments that side made?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at Watergate as a big example. And of course, the president in that case, was subject to criminal charges because what he did was found to be outside of official acts because it's illegal. And so, yes, I think if you're Jack Smith, you're making a similar argument saying we're not calling into question all presidential decision-making ability. We're directly making the argument that this was not official. This was done in the context of his election campaign, his re-election campaign. And just because you are president and running for office again at the same time doesn't give you the ability to claim that every conversation you have and everything you do is therefore official. So you want to make that distinction if you're Jack Smith's team, that this is in the realm of personal acts which do not have immunity, and even the Trump attorneys aren't arguing should have immunity if it is indeed classified as personal.
Republicans are complaining these days that the left is engaged in just outright lawfare. They're going after anybody they possibly utilizing the legal process to do so. They're challenging not degrees, but legal. What am I thinking? Law licenses. There you go. They're challenging law licenses. They're dragging a Republican nominee for president into these show trials that are meant to harm him from running for president again. They've engaged in this the utilization of law to go after political opponents What's the argument from Trump's attorneys yesterday?
Yeah, and I think you're right, Jeff. That's exactly to be. You could have genuine disagreements over the interpretation of constitutional provisions. You could have genuine disagreements over how the law should be applied, especially these, intricate areas of law that haven't had a lot of debate in the courts. And now it's, if you're on the opposite side of a constitutional interpretation, you must somehow be committing legal misconduct and need your license taken from you and all those things you mentioned. And so it absolutely has gone way out of hand. We can debate interpretations in court. That's, of course, what we should do, but you shouldn't go after someone for having a different interpretation of the law than you do in a punishing way. And I think what the main argument from the Trump side is just that you can't continue to prosecute a president for everything imaginable under the sun when the effect is that it is going to stop a president from their ability to be decisive and take action in a particular situation, because they're always going to question, after the fact, can the next president or a former political rival, if they then get into the White House, can they come back and say, we're going to call this a personal act and not an official one, and make sure you get prosecuted. And you don't want, in the American system of government, you don't want to have a president in office who's lost that ability to be decisive, to come down and say, I'm going to make this decision for the country because with the best information given to me right now, I think this is the right course of action. If they don't have the strength and ability to do that because they have to worry about their own future prosecution, that damages the nation as a whole and our entire system of government. So the Trump attorneys are making the argument that this was done in the course of official acts, and it is a political prosecution specifically, and that we can't become a nation that constantly devolves into political prosecution after political prosecution because we don't like someone in office.
Now, Kristi Burton Brown joining Jeff and Bill talking about the Supreme Court immunity arguments yesterday. I want to explore that idea of lawfare a little bit. The idea that because it is a Democrat attorney general, Democrat special counsel, because it's a Democrat judge in a Democrat district, obviously the assumption is Republicans can't get a fair shake. If we are worried about that type of prejudice in our judicial system, why wouldn't the 3 justices appointed by Trump not recuse themselves? If it was a Biden situation and Biden was being charged with crimes and we had 3 Supreme Court appointees on the Supreme Court, I am certain the narrative would be you can't possibly trust them because Biden appointed them. What are your thoughts?
And, Billy, I think both sides do love to claim that, honestly.
Yeah.
That any judge appointed by a president simply can't be unbiased and neutral. But that's actually not the measure of when you need to recuse yourself as a justice or a judge in a lower court. It's not simply because you were appointed by a particular president that therefore you may never consider a case concerning him. Because, you could then make the same argument if a particular executive order was challenged, but the executive order was made by that president. Well, he appointed you. You must have an obligation to uphold what he wants. You must owe him something. That's the implication, that because he appointed you, you owe him something. And I don't think that's a fair assumption to make. I actually don't think that's how most justices at the Supreme Court level particularly view being appointed. They view this as a very solemn thing. I think most of them on both sides actually take their duties quite seriously in that role. And you just see justices have to recuse themselves in so many cases that it just wouldn't be practicable at all, and you wouldn't have a fully operational Supreme Court, which I think would be damaging.
Oh yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But we know that if it was reversed and it was a Biden situation, it's probably at least 98% certain the people on the comfy couch in Fox News this morning would talk about, they just have to recuse themselves because it looks bad. The appearance of impropriety, the appearance of favorability, they would argue that. And so I just feel that both sides in this are being a little bit disingenuous. And I like the idea that you brought up, the idea of that the justices would owe the person that appointed them something, because that's an argument Trump has made on social media several times in these cases, that since he appointed them, he's owed this because he backed Kavanaugh through all that stuff, that he's owed something from Kavanaugh, that he gave Coney Barrett this position, that he's now owed something by her, that she should show deference to him. That's been his argument recently. I find that interesting. Yeah. Now,
it's been his argument, but I think you've seen the justices flatly reject that.
Yeah.
And when you see, again, justices especially get to that level, I mean, they put a lot of weight on the fact that they're supposed to be independent members of the judiciary who are not beholden to any special interest. They very much see themselves as a separate branch of government, which is what they are. So I don't think you've actually seen any of those Trump-appointed justices rule in decisions in any way, or you'd be like, oh, of course they did that because they were beholden to Trump. It's just a narrative, and I don't think Trump helps himself or our side very much to make those kind of comments. In some ways, I think he, thinking of it from a business perspective and misunderstands sometimes that the branches of government are not whatsoever similar to business deals at all, and they shouldn't be. But I think he talks from that perspective constantly. But I don't think just because he talks that way means that's how the justices see it. And in fact, they flatly rejected it in many cases.
I absolutely would agree with that. I want to go back to the beginning of our conversation with Kristi Burton Brown talking about the immunity trial, the immunity arguments in front of the Supreme Court yesterday, talking about the idea of official acts and private acts. How could we possibly define them? The justices asked a lot of questions, but it's really difficult for me to wrap my head around the delineation between, especially in this instance, official acts and private acts and or personal acts. And the reason I say that is, here's the example. A sitting president could determine that, in their opinion, the best thing for the country would be to have them serve a second term. So they can go out in their official act doing what they say is in the best interest of the country, and allows them to do anything else. Again, as long as it's in furtherance of the best interest of the country, in their opinion, which is to give themselves a second term. How do we delineate that private act versus official act?
And Billy, I think that's part of the reason there were 2.5 hours of arguments yesterday at the U.S. Supreme Court, is because it is tough to distinguish between those two in some cases. I mean, you have the obvious examples of when or if a president commits a clear crime. Well, crimes are never considered to be official acts. You're not allowed to do them in your official duties. And I'm talking about very clear crimes, like in the Watergate example. But then you get into the situation of, well, someone's accused of a crime, but it's not, we don't know if it's one or not. We don't even know if they did it. And it's more like how you're interpreting it may make it a crime or may make it not one, based on how you're classifying it, and all of these sticky situations that do arise. And so I think, that's why the discussion also came down to, okay, when there's some conversations with Justice Department officials, that would more often than not be considered in the course of your official duties, because you're talking to executive branch staff. You are, doing things that are very clearly in the official realm. But then when you start talking to campaign officials, campaign managers, campaign attorneys, does that then branch into the personal realm? And what about if you have a conversation with each one and get advice from both separately? I mean, where is the line? I think it's a difficult one to draw. And I think what the justices were indicating yesterday is that there hasn't been an extremely clear line drawn in precedent so far. And that's why I think they may send it back down to the lower courts to say, that's actually an analysis we need to have. That's a test we need to actually create, and say, how do we delineate between official acts and personal acts? And particularly, this is a unique situation because not only do you have a former president being charged during a time where a president of a different party is in office, but it also his current rival in the current election. So, the sense people get of political prosecution is very, very high because of all these extenuating circumstances. And, I think the justices could come down and say, hey, we think this is very clearly within the personal realm, therefore there is no immunity. I think if they decide it's in the personal realm, there's going to be no immunity. But if they say, hey, no, for these reasons, this was clearly an official act, then I think they will grant immunity. But it is my belief that they don't think it's overwhelmingly clear, and that the lower courts really didn't reach that analysis. And because of that, I think they're going to send it back down and tell them they have to reach that analysis.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that they're going to kick it back down and see what everybody says. That's it. I want to talk about that crime issue that you mentioned a minute ago. The idea that if a president commits crimes in office, it obviously wouldn't be allowed. I'm not persuaded that all the justices agree with that. Brett Kavanaugh made the argument in the question about if it is not specifically outlined that the president can't do it, he then would be allowed immunity under office. So all of our laws would have to have a little tag in there that the president can't do it. Otherwise, in Kavanaugh's query, he should be allowed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think it's an interesting point, Billy. And I think sometimes the questions the justices ask indicate absolutely the side they're on and what they're thinking. I think other times they pose questions just to see how, one side or the other might respond to it, to flesh out a particular point that may not even be particularly obvious from the question they're asking. So I don't think that necessarily means that that's Kavanaugh's view that, a statute would have to explicitly say that a president can't do it. I mean, for example, it's going to be a silly example, but,
we like silly examples.
Is illegal. And nowhere does it say that a president, either has an exception to bank robbery or can't explicitly do it. But I think everyone would agree that if a president went out and committed a bank robbery, that would not be within his official acts because it's a clear crime and there's no way he could argue that's an official act and something he can do. So obviously not going to see a president do something like that, but I think there's very clear lines and there's clear crimes. A president can't do it, not going to have immunity. When you commit a crime, you take yourself out of the official act. I think what more the question is what about all these fuzzy gray areas? The Trump lawyer actually brought up 3 different examples, and this was his claim, not mine, but he said Bush lied to Congress to induce war with Iraq. Obama ordered drone strikes that killed U.S. citizens abroad. In fact, he knew they were going to kill U.S. citizens abroad. Biden induced foreigners to enter the U.S. illegally. Again, those were the 3 examples brought up by the Trump attorneys to basically say, well, what about all of those? Those were done under official acts. But I think you could arguably say, if you wanted to, that some of those involve crimes that you could be prosecuted for and could classify as crimes. So do we want to do that and call presidential decisions like that into question under future administrations and really risk a president not being able to act in the moment on the best information they believe they have? And the other side would obviously disagree with it, but is that really the measure? Should the other side be able to come back in and say, well, we don't think you should have done it. We think it was clear you shouldn't have done it, and therefore we're going to call it a crime and prosecute you for it. What does that do to the presidency?
Yeah, that's the issue.
Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado. Great examples there. As the former chairwoman of the Colorado Republican Party, you also have a mind for political tactician work. These trials against Donald Trump, do you think they help Donald Trump in the end? Do you think he gets across the finish line? People look at these and go, these are clearly politically motivated. I don't want to live in a country like this. I want to send a message in part to the Democrats to stop this. So I'm going to support Donald Trump and end the use of lawfare. Or do you think people look at this and go, he's a criminal. He should be brought up on these types of charges. And I don't want him to be the president of the United States. How do you think this plays out in November for him?
I think he's going to win in November. And I think most of the polling shows that every single time he is prosecuted, another case is brought. It's back in the news again that he's being prosecuted. His polling numbers rise. I think part of the attraction that so many voters have to Donald Trump is not that they particularly like the way he talks, not that they particularly support every single thing he does, but that he pushes back against the system that many people think is against the average person and wasn't created to be that way. But a lot of average people are just tired of a system that they say is designed for elitists, that is designed for insiders, that doesn't protect the average person. And they believe Donald Trump stands up for the average person and that the system is fighting against him and trying to shut him down and prosecute him and put him in jail for fighting for the average person. I think that is how a lot of people see it. We could nuance that out one way or the other, where that's true and where it may not be. But I think that's where a lot of people see it. And so you see a lot of people who maybe, weren't very happy over the last few months of his presidency and weren't absolutely certain they were going to vote for him, maybe didn't vote for him in 2020. but now see all this happening and remember what they originally thought in 2016 and say, yeah, the system was against us. Now the system's against us again, and it's trying to shut down the person who fought for us. I'm going to come back and vote for him again because I'm just tired of this system and I want to shut it down. I think you see a lot more people doing that.
Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado. She's also a candidate for State Board of Education in Congressional District 4. If you want to learn more about her, you can go to twitter.com/KBB Colorado and give her a follow there. KBB Colorado. Kristi, thanks so much for providing Bill and I, who are not attorneys, some good analysis on what happened yesterday at the U.S. Supreme Court. I appreciate you. Hope you'll be back regularly.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Kristi Burton Brown. Frank, we'll get to you in just a second. If you have any questions or you want to do a comment on these cases, give us a call at 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. Jurors in Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial have heard testimony that Michael Cohen would refer to the boss being angry or pleased if a story was or wasn't published. David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer, was giving evidence for the prosecution over accusations that Trump knew about money paid to cover up stories about his alleged affairs. Trump's lawyers have sought to argue that although payments happened, the then presidential candidate wasn't aware of them. Trump denies any wrongdoing, having pleaded not guilty to the 34 charges of falsifying records to cover up payments. Older adults in America are worrying more and more about how to make ends meet after 2 years of record inflation. In New York, Haley Bianco reports.
More than 1/4 of U.S. adults over the age of 50 say they expect to never retire, and 70% are concerned about prices rising faster than their income. A new AARP survey found that 1 in 4 have no retirement savings. The survey found that everyday expenses and housing costs, including rent and mortgage payments, are the biggest reasons why people say they're unable to save for retirement.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel.
Diamonds, your gold. Precious. best programs in town to allow the people to talk. And thank God and thank the Constitution that we can still at least have a program like this that allows this type of conversation. Because can you imagine Joe or Mika or the Five having this kind of conversation? I can't. And Billy, I get a kick out of you and all your ideas that come from that super ADD brain you got. But
yeah, I'm a problem.
Well, you're not a problem. You know, maybe too much staying up late at night so your brain is slower.
Could be.
But I don't know. But anyway, what I got a kick out of the other day was some thing that limited your choices or limited your ability to do that, really lit you up. You got exercised about it.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, you know, the interesting point that I wanted to bring up was that these three things that Trump's lawyers brought up about the different situations, and they brought out these things that prior presidents had brought into play that might have been criticized by the opposition. But then what is the definition of high crimes and misdemeanors going to be? I think it's somewhere we have to leave the realm of the average citizen to allow a president who is acting on information that is brought to him by the CIA, by military, by other sources that we don't even have any ability to know, that they have to think at a different level about what is the best for America in that particular situation that supersedes or surpasses this definition of regular crimes and misdemeanors that we think of. That he's looking forward further down the line that might get us involved in a World War III or be very bad for us. So these are things that different political parties argue, but there's always extenuating circumstances that may take 2, 3, 4 years to reveal. And this is one of the difficulties with our system, even though it's the best, but it's not perfect. So these are issues that we mere mortals have to wrestle with.
Yeah, that very good insight there, Frank.
Yeah, it's a good insight.
Because, right, I mean, I didn't have a chance to listen to all 2.5 hours of the oral arguments yesterday, but Kristi Burton Brown bringing up, 3 cases in particular. Bush lied and put us into a war in Iraq over weapons of mass destruction, right? You also have Obama killing Americans, knowing he was going to kill Americans with drone strikes. And then I'm trying to remember what the Biden example was, but
immigrants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how do you forget that? Basically allowing an invasion of illegal immigrants to take place of our country. Would those fit crimes, and should the president be held accountable, even if he did those in his personal capacity? So, or in an official
problem,
position,
though, is that where Frank outlines the idea of high crimes and misdemeanors.
Yeah,
that is political. That has nothing to do with criminal legislation, our laws. The impeachment process is a political process, not a criminal process. So the high crimes and misdemeanors are defined by the body, the House. The House defines those. There is no standard nor statute in our legal system that outlines what the president is and can commit that qualifies as a high crime or misdemeanor. So they're two completely separate pools. And that was one of the really weird arguments, and I didn't get a chance to explore this with Kristi, that was made yesterday, was that the Trump legal team said, well, no, sir, and ma'ams, the president would have to be impeached and convicted first before he could be tried for crimes, which is odd because when during the second impeachment trial, they argued exactly the opposite. They argued 180 degrees away. They said, no, we don't need this impeachment trial because if he did anything wrong, the criminal courts will take care of that after he leaves office. So they argued you can't impeach because the criminal courts would be able to do it. And then he goes in front of the criminal courts and says, they can't do this because they should have impeached me.
One other point I want to make up or bring into play is a time factor. And Billy, the thing I would bring into your mind is you're always arguing for the fairness, and you have an exceptional ability to see both sides and to bring up those points. But the word I want you to remember is termites. Termites. And I don't know if you've ever seen termites that work in wood. You can't see them unless you cut into the wood or look underneath the house. You can't usually hear them, but they're doing their damage. And so this time factor that I'm talking about is reference to the left, who are very patient. They've been trying to bring their tenants into this country to the destruction, potential destruction of this country for many years, 50 or 60 years. And they're very patient. And these termites type gradually eating away at our Constitution, our institutions, and our people, gradually erode the will of the people. They bring to the surface arguments. They cause us to internally fight. So those crimes, the ones that they mentioned about Obama, Biden, and Bush are kind of proximate in time, relatively short. But these longer acting things could bring down a country or cause a country to weaken over a period of time, such as the immigration thing that I think takes time to make a difference. And
Frank, I appreciate it. Frank from Denver with the communist termites.
Yeah, although we do think the Republicans do languish and wait there and bide their time until the right instance happens as well.
We're so busy raising kids.
Roe versus Wade, anybody? That was a 50-year. That was a 50-year march.
That was a good one. Well, no, that was to fix a problem.
But the issue being the idea of the termites sitting there and waiting. His idea was the Democrats are patient and wait. I'm just giving another example where the Republicans are patient and wait. I'm not saying one side is right or wrong. I'm just saying there are examples on both sides, just as Frank outlined.
Frank's line is open 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
710 traffic.
We're seeing some crowding in Aurora. 225 southbound has a 1-minute delay from Parker Road to I-25. Just some normal.
552. RX, take your mark.
All right, let's get to the phone lines on the Jeff and Bill Show. Tony, you're up next. Littleton. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. So I had a chance to listen to it all the way through, and it was pretty interesting. I think you've accurately got the issue, and that's official act versus a personal act. And I think it was John Roberts who brought up a case that, well, which way does it go? And in this case, he said, so a president in his official capacity can appoint an ambassador. That's a legal thing to do. That's his job. But if he takes $1 million for that appointment, that becomes a criminal act. And then he asked the prosecution to, walk through that and explain how that would be addressed. And they explained, well, the appointment is legitimate. That's what he does. That's in his role as president. But the crime was taking the money. And so the taking the money should be prosecuted, although maybe the appointment itself may stand. That is kind of a moot point. But you could have acts that look like official acts, and yet there's a personal crime involved.
That was an interesting argument, Tony, because the idea being that how then could you prosecute someone post-office, because you can't necessarily refer to the action of appointing the ambassador that is the furtherance of the crime, that it creates this weird loophole. And the other part that I wish the lawyer would have pushed back on and asked and said, well, but if Trump takes the $1 million for appointing the ambassador, but gives it to the Treasury under the auspices of lowering the debt, that's an official act. So can he do that? Can he take bribes for it? And I wish they would have pushed that, because that's the first thing that popped into my mind and said, same like Kristi Burton Brown's example on the bank robbery. Yeah, sure, he can go in and rob a bank, but if he takes the money and then gives it to the Treasury and says, I'm lowering the debt, official act, no crime. It's weird how they created this.
And there may be some even muddying the water on some of that. One, the next issue that was raised around that was, in the case of certifying the election, president has no role, none whatsoever. He has no involvement in that. So all of his actions around certifying the election, the fake elector scheme, trying to get Pence to renege on it, all of that, that's all personal. So he making the point, so it doesn't even, there is no official act, and he's being pursued for his personal acts. He's simply trying to make a case that those are official in the line of duty acts, and that's not even supported by the Constitution. So I'm not going to predict how it's going to come out. And yes, it may be pushed back down to the lower court, which basically says that'll delay it absolutely until after the election.
Right.
If they come out with an answer on their own, they don't push it down by June 30th, there will still be a trial. Even
Tony,
if I got a September
question for you, and Kristi Burton Brown brought this up as well. Do you think that challenging an election is an illegal act?
Challenging an election, he has a right. He has a right to use the courts to challenge the election, and
Isn't that what they were doing with the electors?
Until it's exhausted.
With the alternate with the alternate electors, isn't that what they were setting up?
No.
It was for the legal challenge to work itself out.
No.
How not?
No. He had a right to take it through the courts, and he was rejected by the courts, and then the implementation of this scheme to come up with the fake electors. And they're a bunch of them have gone to jail already, and now Arizona's got 11 of them they're being now prosecuted each for 3 different felonies. This is kind of an interesting thing. You think about attorneys have lost their license. You've got several hundred people that are in jail for their role on January 6th. You've got all these fake electors that are now going to jail, state by state.
But in Colorado,
and the guy at the very center of it.
But Tony, in Colorado, it wasn't a crime to have fake electors until this week. They just made it a law this week.
No, but it's when you sign the document and you submit it to National Archives, you've now submitted false documents. You've actually committed a crime at that level. That's the crime.
That's where I wonder if it is the signing of the documents. Having alternative electors, they've done that in the past. It wasn't a crime.
It's the signature and the submission in post.
I wonder if it is that signature and submission that makes a difference. Tony, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Man, phone lines already lit up. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
710 traffic.
Some volume out there.
Journey with me.
Good morning, Denver. It's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little nutty. It's going to be a great day in America's greatest city, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Took a bunch of calls during the last hour about the Supreme Court case yesterday. So if you want to weigh in on that, feel free to do it. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Saw this just breaking from the Wall Street Journal. Both rivals of the 2024 presidential election, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, start their mornings today in Manhattan. Ironically, just a few miles from each other. President Donald Trump planned to return to the octogenarian fight for the presidency.
That'd be fun.
President Donald Trump planned to return to a downtown courthouse to stand trial on hush money charges, while President Biden was due in New York City to raise money. Wow, shocking how that happens. He spent Thursday night alongside Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. That is a perfect example of the world we live in right now. Oh, my goodness. Republicans forced into show trials while Democrats are out in the New York City suburbs raising money with movie stars. All right, let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning. Was the word pause printed in that story at all? Right in the middle, right before they start talking about Biden.
Fox is reporting that Joe Biden is now going to be escorted to Marine One moving forward. So to expect that. Congratulations, Americans.
Hey, did I miss you choose the news?
We got going with the callers, man.
Okay.
So we'll probably do it here in the 7 o'clock hour, but thanks for bringing that up.
I looked up and I was like, oh man, I forgot to do you choose the news with Billy.
It's just, it's just one of those mornings where it got going. It was hot.
I love
it. Still
it.
is on the phone line.
Yes, it is. 49 and cloudy in Denver. Expecting mostly cloudy skies and highs in the upper 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: 3 houses struck by lightning sparked fires in Evergreen, Broomfield, and Erie on Wednesday. Thankfully, no injuries. First tornado of the season touched down near Akron in northeastern Colorado. No damage or injuries reported. Eagle County sheriffs looking for witnesses after a teenager died in a fight on Wednesday night at a park in Gypsum. The teen suspect has been apprehended. They're investigating the case as a homicide. The Supreme Court, of course, is considering whether former President Trump is immune from criminal prosecution for acts he took in office, centered around federal election interference charges. His attorneys argue prosecuting a president for official acts is incompatible with the Constitution. The special counsel attorney says the Constitution does not grant a president absolute immunity. Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. And that's a direct shot at Fonnie Willis of Georgia and Alvin Bragg in New York. So how is that ridiculous show trial going in New York? Law professor Jonathan Turley from George Washington University. Florida Governor DeSantis warning Florida college students not to illegally protest on campus. DeSantis posted, "If you try that at a Florida university, you are going to be expelled." The University of Southern California is canceling its main commencement ceremony because of these ignorant fools, and the inmates are definitely running the asylum there during these protests. You know what I say? I say play the fight song. Just fight on, have the commencement ceremony and do this. Forget those people.
Could you imagine working 4 years?
No.
And in that crowd, there's parents that sacrificed, worked hard so that their child could go to USC.
Yeah.
This would be a huge moment to honor and celebrate the sacrifice of the entire family, the kids that worked hard, the parents, and because of left-wing protests, you're going to be doing it in your backyard.
Tell them to pound sand and have the commencement ceremony. And plus, I just love that fight song. I don't care what you think about USC. That's the greatest fight song ever. And he also played at Auburn, 12th pick, and he's a playmaker, strong arm, and good head on his shoulders.
Was very good. He's super smart.
So you have Zach Wilson and you have Bo Nix, and I think once you shake it up, let's see what happens during training camp. Maybe you have a starting quarterback that can lead this team to some victories. Problem is, Billy, there's still the Kansas City Chiefs out there.
Oh, don't remind me. Don't remind me.
Are rolling. They take a 3-0 lead in the series.
112-105 over the Lakers. Aaron Gordon, 29 points, 15 boards for the Nuggies. Avalanche try to take a 2-1 lead over the Winnipeg Jets tonight in Lodo, game 3 of the opening round Stanley Cup playoff series for them. Rockies scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th, rallied past the Padres 10-9. Astros in town tomorrow. TGI. Fight on, fellas. Fight on. Let's go. Top 7-10. And yes.
That was great, boy.
Denver water.
KNUS 5-day forecast is a cool one this Friday. Some brisk winds, a little shower or thunderstorm activity in the afternoon. We'll be looking at increasing light to moderate, a little bit of some heavy rain Saturday and early Sunday. Wet, heavy snow up into the higher foothills and the mountains. Temps today, mid-60s, stiff northwest winds, 10 to 30. Lows tonight, low 40s. Upper 40s to low 50s for highs Saturday. Mid to upper 50s Sunday. 60s to 70s for highs Monday into Tuesday.
I'm meteorologist Mark Huer on 710 KNUS.
Did you see the pictures, Bill, of the students at Liberty University? They all gathered on their quad as well.
Oh, really?
But they were doing prayer and praise and worship time.
Oh, interesting. They do that a lot. I've got a friend that has a daughter at Liberty, and she shares that a lot.
Just with all these other college campuses going on, I think as parents, you're looking at Hillsdale, Liberty, CCU. That's about it.
Possibly, yeah.
All right. Joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show, Dave Olesky, Assistant Special Agent in Charge for the Drug Enforcement Agency. Agent Olesky, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, gentlemen. Good morning. How you doing today?
We're great. It's Friday. You guys have something going on over the weekend. You want to tell folks about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow, Saturday from 10 to 2 p.m., it's going to be the DEA's 26th annual National Take Back Day. Hopefully your listeners have heard about this over the years, but it's if not, it's an opportunity to kind of a little spring cleaning in the household, take any of your prescription drugs that you no longer need. We have over here in the state of Colorado alone, just close to 100 sites where, we partner with local police departments to kind of man some stations, and folks come out and turn back in their unused drugs, where we can basically dispose of it in a environmentally friendly way. You can do it anonymously, and it's something goes all the way back to 2010 for us, where at a national level we've collected close to 18 million pounds of pills over the years. So at a minimum, it's definitely protecting the environment, and secondly, though, it's sometimes prescription drugs sitting around in the household can be a gateway to addiction itself. So hopefully I will see a lot of folks out there tomorrow morning.
So why not just toss them in the trash?
Yeah, I mean, so many folks just do that, but I think that's the part of the environment. Not a chemist and all, but a lot of folks do. They'll just take the pills, toss it down the toilet bowl, and off it goes. I don't know all the environmentally in the sense of the impact, but what we end up doing is we'll end up collecting all the everything that's turned in, and we contract with a company that basically will dispose of it in a way that's safe for the environment, as opposed to, like you said, just throwing it in your home trash or down the toilet. We take care of all of that, and you don't have to worry about. We don't look at any of the names on it. There's one thing we would say is, though, you can definitely remove all your identifiers on the container, but we don't do any of that. There'll be containers out there where you can turn them in yourself, dispose of it in the box, and then all we do is no questions asked. We'll take it, bring it back to kind of our principal collection site at our office, put it in a tractor trailer, and we take it off to the kind of the contracting company, which is out of state, that disposes of all this.
I know I've had to do stuff like this with paint. I've never actually dropped off any prescription drugs. Fortunately, we haven't had the need of much prescription drugs, but we've had to do this with paint because you can't throw paint away. One thing you can do is, like, you have to mix it with, kitty litter or something like that. But it was nice in Highlands Ranch. I would just roll on up, never even got out of my car, and they took the paint, and it made it a lot easier for me. Is it a kind of a similar drop-off stuff? Is it a parking lot that they just kind of roll on up to and hand it to you, or do they have to go into?
There's different ones. We'll have some tomorrow. A person will be out of one of the King Supers in the area, but then I was just driving yesterday right here, the Arapahoe County Sheriff's. They had their sign up, yesterday, and little billboard outside their department. So there's every location's just a little bit different. But yeah, most of the locations you can kind of drive up, hand it to an agent or an officer right at your window, and they'll put it in. And we're looking to take prescription drugs. I mean, sometimes we'll get folks just turning in their cough medicine. You can turn in liquids just as long as you keep it in your original container. We're not taking syringes or anything like that. But we last time that I was on your show, we were talking about fentanyl. We were talking about the cartels most of the time. I was on last month, and so much of this that we're dealing with today with fentanyl has its roots, in the prescription overprescribing of drugs, in the late '90s in terms of painkillers, and so that's where SAMHSA. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, they came out and did a report and said that a majority of people who misuse prescription drugs got it from a family member or friend.
Wow.
And even as young as 12 years old, 53% of people 12 and older had attained a prescription pain medication, basically from comfort of their home, from a fellow family member, maybe an uncle, or maybe you're over somebody else's house. You think your pills are fine, but sadly, so many folks, addiction can start right in the household.
Yeah, because they're available, they're right there, and mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, for the younger set, don't have any idea how many pills are in that bottle. And again, Absolutely. As we get older, memory slips. Mine more than Jeff's at this point. But the idea being that grandma might not remember that she didn't take all her pills yet, and she may go back to the prescription office early and find out later on. Talk to us about the dangers of expired medication, because that can also present a danger as well. And there are many families that do have expired medication. You didn't finish all of that medication when the doctor prescribed it.
Yeah, it's simply that. I mean, when the doctor's prescribing it, normally, there'll be the expiration date on it, but some folks will say, hey, I'm just going to keep this for a future, hey, if this comes back again. Well, there's other complications that could happen, as a result of it. I mean, every medicine's going to be different, right? But I think, you just say, hey, let me just keep this here in the house in case something arises again in the future. And there could be, just like food you would keep in the fridge, right? Or something. Things expire. They don't just sit there in the container and maintain its same effectiveness. And so that is a good question that you had there.
Talking to Dave Olesky, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Drug Enforcement Administration. They've got a special Saturday National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. Dave, where do they get information for that?
Yeah, so all your listeners can go to DEA takeback.com, and go to that website. You can put in your like a zip code, a city, and basically find your nearest location. There's so many here in the Denver metro area. You can also go to DEA.gov for more information on fentanyl. Hey, if you want to be an agent with DEA, you can go to DEA.gov. There's so many good resources there to dive into all different aspects of what we do. But look forward to seeing folks hopefully out there tomorrow.
Dave, give us just a brief update. How you guys doing in the battle against fentanyl, against the cartels taking place in this state? You guys are laying your lives out there on a daily basis to protect this nation. Give us a brief update how things are going.
Yeah, it hasn't slowed down, guys. Like last month I was on and we were talking about how every couple of days we end up getting, seizures of fentanyl, 100,000 pills at a time. We're definitely on pace to outdo last year's numbers. And, from talking to law enforcement leaders across the region, the same goes for poisonings and deaths out there on the streets, just talking to folks about the constant utilization of Narcan, trying to save lives out there. So, we continue to target the cartels and go after their pills. One of the other things that we're starting to see now, I was just talking to one of my friends out on the West Coast, they're now starting to see more and more fake or, say counterfeit Adderall pills containing methamphetamine. So for a long time, we've been talking about just the fake fentanyl pills, the blue M30 pills. Now they're starting to see 100,000 pill quantities of basically same cartels producing it. It's just instead of fentanyl being the active ingredient of pills, now they're starting to see methamphetamine being introduced and producing fake Adderall pills, which is another scary trend that we're seeing.
I think at a point, our kids are still relatively young, but the conversation we've had is never, ever, ever, ever put a pill that you don't know what it is or hasn't been prescribed by a doctor in your mouth. Ever. You have no idea what's in it. And this stuff could kill you.
No, absolutely. It's there's no ingredient list, right?
Right.
On a pill. And more and more the cartels are producing basically pills. And I've said before, there really isn't as much a stigma associated with a pill, right? Whether that's sitting in a little container on your kitchen cabinet or, getting it off the streets. It's a lot different than, injecting drugs, into you with a needle or smoking it, snorting it, and so the cartels, I think, are capitalizing on that. They're able to produce these pills, both methamphetamine pills or the fentanyl pills, because of the precursor chemicals coming out of China. We continue to make cases, and even in our division here in Colorado, targeting those networks of companies trafficking the chemicals from the Far East into Mexico, via like dark web investigations. And so we're trying to target every different aspect of the networks. Simultaneously, though, just with, we continue to talk about how much we're seizing, that we got to get the message out, though, as well, because the supply is abundant, and the prices for these pills, we were talking about the Adderall pills. They're down. I was hearing in LA just as cheap as 40 cents for one of these fake Adderall pills. Same applies for fentanyl pills. So you're looking at under $1 for one of these pills. Oftentimes, the traffickers will provide them free at first, just so that they can get somebody addicted to the pills. And it's scary, just because of kind of how cheap the supply and the mechanisms by which they're trafficking it.
Dave Olesky, Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Drug Enforcement Administration. This Saturday is National Prescription Drug Takeback Day. You can visit I was just opening the website, DEATakebackday.com. I think that's what it was. DEATakeback.com. DEATakeback.com. You can go there and find out where you can drop this off, guys. This is destroying the next generation. We talked yesterday all about all the problems that this next generation faces. Let's eliminate this as one of them. Dave, thanks for all you do. Thanks to all the guys at the DEA that are fighting every day for this nation. We appreciate you all so much.
Thanks, gentlemen. Hope to see you out there tomorrow at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. National Prescription Drug Take Back Day. And their website again, deatakeback.com to find those locations.
And many of us are concerned about personal documents and things, and we go to those shredding events. We don't have a shredder at home, and so you bring in the documents because you're like, I don't want someone to get a hold of this. This is just as important. You don't want somebody in your family, a friend, or even a guest to get a hold of this prescription medication. If you're concerned about your personal documents and you shred them, be concerned about the medication you have in your house that may be expired, may not have been used, that is just sitting there that you think is benign. Someone else could be using it to get high. Take a look.
That's right. Thanks, Bill. Look, your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. Do you remember we had Gay Ribble on earlier this week? Yeah. Absolutely delightful person. She's part of the Empower Home team. They're the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service, invaluable advice, and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average, listen to this, of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled over 14,000 pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Give them a call today at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we now know who's funding the student radicals. I'll tell you, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
710 traffic.
Your big
Have you moved, changed your phone number? Go to covered.com.
Roll them out shelves.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Blake, what do you...
Public health order is now in effect, trying to help save, as Billy would say, babies' lives. So that's good news. We'll talk about that. And also, it is spring, so that means plenty of lightning, thunderstorms. Be aware. 3 houses hit and fire erupts after the lightning hits their homes, and thankfully no one was hurt in that. So we'll have the spring storms from here until September. So that'll be
That's
it.
right.
That is it.
For anybody new to Colorado, take this as someone who's a former river guide, 5 summers. Do all your activities in the morning.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
Get, go rafting in the morning, go hiking in the morning, go play soccer in the morning, do all that stuff in the morning.
Absolutely.
Because about 3:30, you could set your watch to it in Colorado now.
Yeah. And then when you get into the real dog days of summer, it gets too hot. Don't want to be out there doing that
right.
that time. Yeah. Because the weather will turn in the afternoon. You used to, as Jeff says, used to be able to set your watch by it almost through the entire season, where about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd get a rainstorm. And you would know. You wouldn't even have to have a watch. You could tell based on the clouds building. You're like, oh, 1:30. It's going to be about 2 o'clock soon. And yeah.
You a 14-year climber?
Yeah. I've done, 15, 16.
Nice.
Yeah. It's been a long time. I'm old. But yeah, did a lot of them, especially as I was younger. Did a lot of them. Got stuck on Mount Holy Cross in the middle of a storm one afternoon.
Yikes.
Yeah, we were on the wrong face and had to navigate down. Wasn't certain all of us were coming down. Yeah. No, I didn't think all of us were gonna get down unscathed, and we did. Yeah, that was spooky. And we were not dressed for the weather. It was everything wrong that you can say about doing that. We did that. Yeah, everything wrong.
Oh, it's fun to be young. Yeah, I got stuck on Elbert one time in the middle of a storm because we were trying to do a midnight ascent. So sometimes
seems like a bad choice.
Sometimes you can flip the weather.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty clear at night in
Yeah.
Colorado, but for some reason a storm came in, and that was like we could see lightning hitting all around us, and we were just sprinting down
So
it.
explain to me the conversation that took place when one of your very good friends says, I want to go and climb out in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did
what
Princeton
exactly
at midnight too. You're just sitting around having
geez.
dinner and you're like, what do you want to do? Let's go climb a 14er. Let's do it.
We did it in the morning. I did Princeton too, did Albert. Yeah. And you can do that. There's one where you can do the 4 in one day.
Yeah. I did that.
Yep. Yeah.
Oxford, Belford, Missouri, and one of the other ones.
Yeah,
so
I remember. One of my favorite things, and I can't, again, too old, can't do it anymore, is skiing, coming back down off the mountain. One of my favorite
can't
things
do that
in the world.
with 40-year-old knees.
No, you can't at all. Oh, it hurts. In the back. Oh, man.
Look, Jeff Hunt here for my friends at Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan is the son of a police officer. Dan is also a former seminarian. Dan has dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. I think we all saw, if you go on Twitter and follow Dan Caplis on Twitter as well, he has a video of him. He is courtside when Jamal Murray hit that game winner. And as Jamal Murray goes up, fades back, you hear Dan Caplis yell, "Epic!" And then the ball goes in. It was great. He called it. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. We missed it in the 6 o'clock hour, so we're going to make it up now. Ladies and gentlemen, you choose the news, loser edition.
Yes, it is that time of the week in which we get to bring back the loser stories. Stories that Jeff and Blake felt were unworthy of your consideration.
You are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser.
You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser. Loser.
Yes, the losers are back for a second shot at glory. If you don't join us in the 6 o'clock hour, hopefully the people in charge aren't listening this morning because we play this fake radio news game show where we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning for really dumb stories, giving them even more ridiculous headlines to just be silly for a while, honestly, if we're just being honest between you and me, Jeff and Blake. But still, alrighty, gentlemen, here are the stories that you did not choose earlier in the week. Headline number 1, taking one for the team. Headline number 2, a reminder of who's in charge. Headline number 3, I only had T. Martinis. And headline number 4, a really unexpected twist. All right, Mr. Hunt, choose wisely.
Let's do really unexpected twist.
Okay, big deep breath, because normally these are fun and frivolity. This one's a little dark, but interesting. We're traveling to Texas for this one, and we are meeting a 10-year-old student in Texas who is now facing some very serious charges after threatening to kill a fellow student during a bus altercation recently. He said that, yes, I absolutely will kill you. And when he was being interviewed by the school district, he said, no, I'm serious because I've done it before.
Jeez.
During the conversation with school officials, the 10-year-old admitted that he shot and killed someone with his grandfather's gun 1 week before his 8th birthday. The man was sleeping in an RV. He went and got his grandfather's gun from the glove compartment, walked into the RV that was unlocked, shot and killed the man while he slept in the head. It has been a cold case in Texas. They've just solved it.
Yeah.
And the kid will not face any charges because in Texas, you can't be tried for murder under the age of 10. Yeah.
I'm like, my jaws dropped. So what do you do with that kid?
I know. I got to tell you how much time I had trying to figure out if we bring that to the table today.
Like,
because that is not fun. But oh my God, it's interesting.
I mean, there's got to be somebody that you can't send him to juvie.
No, you can't charge him under the age of 10. You can't charge for murder or anything. You can't. Which means that I guess by the time 10th birthday, you should be giving him a card saying, "Oh, congratulations, you missed your free murder chance." I guess would be the card to give him. But I don't know.
That's the recipe for a serial killer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm to get used to it early on. And the issue was that I was so surprised in this was the conversation with the school officials. So they're asking about it. He's like, no, I've done this before. I'll kill him because I've killed this dude over here. Yeah. That is just scary on so many levels.
Do you want to bet there's something wrong with the parents?
Oh, yeah. And something wrong with the kid. But oh, my
obviously.
Gosh. Okay, let's have a palate cleanser.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Jeff Hunt, your second choice this morning. Taking one for the team, a reminder of who's in charge, or I only had T. Martuni's.
What, T. Martuni's?
Yes, before I had Tim
I've
Martuni's.
never heard that before.
Alrighty, we've only had T. Martuni's. We're talking about Sun Express, the Turkish airline. In a recent conversation, they said when they expanded to take flights out of Britain in 2022, they were in no way prepared for what was going to happen. Because the Brits like their drinky drink. It said that when they started flying flights out of the UK, they had to double or triple the amount of booze they put on the planes because in one Gulf outing, the plane was drunk dry in 25 minutes. It said that the Brits have a tendency to drink a heck of a lot of liquor while they are in the air and get a little, well, unruly. So they say that they've had to restrict some things, but they run about 136 flights weekly from the UK, and each and every one of them is stocked with extra booze. Yeah, I like that. They've identified this one group as these guys drink a lot. We're not prepared for that. We're not even close.
We got a text message on the previous story.
Yeah.
That kid belongs in Congress.
Oh, that is fantastic. You win the morning. Okay. Blake Olson from the news department. Final choice this morning, sir. Taking one for the team or reminder of who's in charge?
Let's take one for the team.
Let's take one for the team. This is going right up your alley to a recent Yankees game. They were playing the A's, and that was the day in which Aaron Boone got ejected. Just 2 batters into the game because he was chirping at the ref so early. Doesn't make any sense. That's because it wasn't him. If you go back and you watch the video, there is someone in the crowd that is yelling at the ump. And the ump turns around and warns the Yankees dugout, stop it, I'm going to do something else. The ump turns around. The person in the stand says something again. He turns to Boone and goes, that's it, you're out of here. Tosses him. And Boone's like, I didn't say a thing. And the ump's like, I don't care, you're out. And throws him out of the game for something he never said.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see that in basketball all the time.
Yes, all the time.
Because the fans are so close to if you go to a college basketball game, it used to be you used to see and hear so many things.
Oh yeah.
And you had no idea where they were coming from.
No clue. No clue at all.
Officials.
Oh God.
And if the fan has a similar voice to the coach, the officials have no idea.
Oh, no clue. And it's hard to figure out where it's coming from in that environment as well. Well, thank you so much, Blake. That is the end of You Choose the News. That's how we do it early in the morning, 6 o'clock hour. Join us if you like this sort of silliness. But I do have to remind you, this is no way, shape, or form sponsored by Rolling Out Shelves. They are a reputable company that has a fantastic process of cleaning out the clutter in your kitchen, bath, garage, wherever. They'll organize your shelves. They'll do a free in-home estimate. It's a mother-son team. It's like having your family over there to fix the problem in your house. Make your kitchen, bath, garage easier. Free estimate, rollemoutshelves.com. Whatever you do, don't tell them about You Choose the News. Alrighty, back to you, sir.
Oh, it's Friday here.
Yes,
that was a good one, Bill. Thanks so much. All right, who's paying these student radicals who are fueling a nationwide explosion of Israel-hating protests? George Soros. George Soros and his hard left acolytes are paying agitators who are fueling the explosion of radical anti-Israel protests at colleges across the country. The protests, which began when students took over Columbia University's Morningside Heights campus lawn last week, have mushroomed nationwide. Copycat tent cities, Yale, Berkeley in California, the Ohio State University, Emory in Georgia, even here in Denver, down at the Aurora campus, all of them organized by branches of the Soros-funded Students for Justice in Palestine, and that some students have clashed with police. The SJP parent organization has been funded by a network of nonprofits, ultimately funded by, among others, Soros, the billionaire left-wing organizer. At 3 colleges, the protests are being encouraged by paid radicals who are, quote, fellows with a Soros-funded group called the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. USCPR provides up to $7,800 for its commonly based fellows and between $2,800 and $3,600 for its campus-based fellows in return for spending 8 hours a week organizing campaigns led by Palestinian organizations. They are trained to, quote, rise up to revolution, unquote. The radical group receives at least $300,000 from Soros's Open Society Foundations since 2017 and also took in $355,000 from the Rockefeller brothers. Paid.
So
everybody looked at those tents, right, when they first came up, and they're like, they're all the same tent.
Yeah.
Y'all bought a bunch of the same tent.
Now, is it a contract job or do I have to submit an hourly? Because if they need someone, if I can take the fat Soros check and just show up and stand in the crowd, I don't have to chant anything. I'm not going to fight the police, but I could use the cash. I got 4 kids.
Ho, ho.
I have 2 more that got to go to college. I'm more than happy to just stand in the crowd if I can get the Soros check. How do I apply for this? What do I need to do?
Well, Elizabeth Epps and Timmy Hernandez were down yesterday at the Aurora campus to support students in advocating for Palestine against Israel. Campus police are saying that the student encampment is against policy and illegal. So when Timmy Epps, that's not his name, but we're going to call him that from now on. It's like Brangelina. When Timmy Epps and Elizabeth Hernandez go down there, they take a break from taking away your Second Amendment rights and putting radical abortion bills through to go down and support Palestinian Jew-hating stuff.
Is it weird that we aren't allowed to sleep on the college campuses, but we can somewhere else? Is that weird? Is it strange that we've carved out that one exception there for the campuses that no, we can't have the homeless hanging out there? It seems like that would be the place where they'd be most amenable to them. But we can camp over here on Park 225.
Dude, we had a guy in college that just hung out in the middle section of our dorm, the public area, common area. For about 3 months before somebody was finally like, dude.
My son at CSU last semester, there was a guy 2 doors down that wasn't a student. They found out 2 months into the semester. They're like, you're just here for free rent.
I think that actually happens a lot.
Sure.
I mean, if you're like 19, 20, nobody really knows, nobody really checks. You got buddies going to college. You can just
and if you can get the access card or the key, that's all you need. If you can dupe it or just get somebody else's, absolutely.
In the 8 o'clock hour, I want to get into this shocking poll from Axios. Americans warm to mass deportation, including 42% of Democrats ready to send them home. We'll get into this and more. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It's Friday, April 26th, and you have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little crazy. It's going to be a great day in America's greatest city, and we're gearing up for another hour of engaging discussions and critical analysis. Most importantly, your calls and text, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get another cup of coffee and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Give us a call. Phone lines open, 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. Or text us on the 710 KNUS app. In just a second, I'm going to get into this shocking poll from Axios, not a conservative poll. American warms to mass deportations. Share of Americans who say they support mass deportations are pretty high. Yeah, maybe higher than you would think. 42% of Democrats say they support mass deportations of undocumented immigrants, according to this new Axios Vibes survey by the Harris poll. We'll get into that in just a second. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Buenos dias, 52, mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting mostly cloudy skies and highs in the upper 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Colorado's new public health order is now in effect to save babies born with syphilis. When passed on during pregnancy, it can cause defects, permanent disabilities, and even death. The order requires healthcare providers to offer testing for moms to be. Tomorrow is National Drug Take-Back Day. You can safely get rid of your unwanted, unused, and expired prescriptions at locations across the state. Dave Olesky with the DEA.
At a minimum, it's definitely protecting the environment, and secondly, though, it's sometimes prescription drugs sitting around in the household can be a gateway to addiction itself.
He joined the award winners last hour. DEA.gov for more information. It goes on from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. 3 houses struck by lightning sparked fires in Evergreen, Broomfield, and Erie on Wednesday. Thankfully, no injuries. The first tornado of the season touched down near Akron in northeastern Colorado. No damage or injuries reported. Pro-Hamas supporters gathered at Denver's Auraria campus on Thursday for a rally to show how much they don't understand. About 6 months ago, students were treated to these types of people handing out pieces of paper that said "Death to Jews" following October 7th. The Supreme Court is considering whether former President Trump is immune from criminal prosecution for acts he took in office, centered around federal election interference charges. His attorneys argue prosecuting a president for official acts is incompatible with the Constitution. Here's Jonathan Turley, law professor at George Washington University.
Trajectory continues from oral argument. It was a good day for Donald Trump because there were 5 justices that clearly were not buying into the D.C. Circuit's approach. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to say that Trump is immune from prosecution, but at a minimum, if that is the case, they would likely have to remand it to the district court to say, we need you to develop this record a little further. If they do that, it's hard to see how this could possibly be tried before the election.
This morning, former President Trump back in court, and he started the day by saying happy birthday to his wife. 47 in Lakewood, 48 in Aurora, and 52 in Denver.
With the 12th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Bo Nix, quarterback,
Oregon, and he also played at Auburn. Really talented quarterbacks, and now you have Zach Wilson and Bo Nix there. We'll see who starts in the fall.
We saw the pro day, but then even in the private workout was was very good. He's super smart.
Head coach Sean Payton.
Jokic bounces perfectly. Murray leaves it. Gordon slams it down.
The Nuggets lead the Lakers 3-0 112-105 over the Lakers last night. Aaron Gordon, 29 points, 15 rounds. Break out the brooms. Avs try to take a 2-1 lead over the Winnipeg Jets tonight in Lodo. Game 3 of their opening round series, and the Rockies take on the Astros tomorrow. They won last night, 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th, 10-9 the final. It's Friday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS 5-day forecast is a cool one this Friday. Some brisk winds, a little shower or thunderstorm activity in the afternoon. We'll be looking at increasing light to moderate, a little bit of some heavy rain Saturday and early Sunday. Wet, heavy snow up into the higher foothills and the mountains. Temps today, mid-60s, stiff northwest winds, 10 to 30. Lows tonight, low 40s. Upper 40s to low 50s for highs Saturday. Mid to upper 50s Sunday. 60s to 70s for highs Monday into Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer on 710 KNUS.
Which is very interesting. Could shape this election in a big way. But before we leave the campus protests, the police, this recording of police in Boston trying to reason with these leftists that are Marxists, anti-Semitic Marxists. Listen to everything this police officer says, trying to reason, and then the response from this is Harvard, guys.
Screwed up in school with grades or whatever, missed the finals. So I'm trying to work with you all. Trust me, we're not the enemy on this. We're indifferent. So I'm going to ask you all, you guys been protesting all day. I get it. Listen, I get it, and I support what you're trying to do. However, at this point, it's late. People live here. We're getting a lot of complaints. We let it go for a while. We're supposed to come down about 10 p.m. We're looking to give you your space and let you all do this. Okay, but at a certain point, they got to go to work in the morning as well. So we're trying to be reasonable with all them. Right? So again, I'm not looking to try to be unreasonable. I gave you guys several hours extra. I do not want to arrest anybody. I promise you. I want you all to go back to school tomorrow, finish your finals, be a protest. We just got to do it the right way. That's all I ask. We don't want to escalate to do anything. So again, I've done a lot of these. We're always reasonable. We don't want to arrest anybody. Trust me. We all want to go home just like we want you to go home tonight. So I'm welcome. I'm free to answer any questions. Speak to anyone who wants to speak to me, but just to let you know, we got to open up.
Free, free Palestine! 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 Free, free Palestine!
And at that point, the cop just puts his head down and walks away. I've been a part of a number of protests. I've organized them. I've gotten the permits. We've done them down at the state capitol.
Who knew you were such a hippie? I had no idea.
Well, these were like little social conservative protests, which are a little different. Yeah. And we got people together. We worked with police. We provided security for our attendees. We got the AV systems, and we did our little protest. We followed the book on it. Here's a question I have for you, Bill.
Yeah.
Do you think this all just kind of ends when college is done this spring?
Probably not. I don't think they won't have as easy a captive audience, so it will be more difficult. But I have a feeling they'll try to go to other places and do this because I feel they're getting what they want. They're getting the Biden administration to soften their position. They're having the discussion. And, for all the people out there that feel like you and I, there are going to be some, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, young skulls full of mush that are going to be persuaded by the arguments that they hear and feel that this is an oppressor-oppressed dynamic when it really is not in many ways. It's much more complicated, nuanced. Yeah.
We talked about this the other day. There's groups that are building towards the Chicago DNC convention because they want it to look like Chicago. They want to send a message. They want to disrupt. And again, I'm fascinated. I'm really fascinated that this is so geared towards Joe Biden and not Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The fact that because Trump would have a more hardline side. Yeah.
Right. Trump's not going to be like, well, how can we talk about peace? No, he's going to be like, well,
no,
pound him into the ground if you need to.
He's the guy that said Russia could take full advantage of our NATO allies if he didn't think they paid enough. So you think he's going to care at all about a Palestinian state or the Palestinian people in any way, shape, or form? No, not in the least. That's fair. But yeah, it's very interesting. This is all targeted on what Biden can do rather than them saying, wait, if Trump gets back in, what's going to happen is even worse. You're absolutely right. It's a really interesting dynamic politically.
So they'll probably protest in front of the RNC convention as well, but I mean, really geared towards the DNC. And like Bill said, like Rush said, young skulls full of mush. I mean, here you have a police officer trying to reason with Harvard, and this is what our country's future leaders are going to be. Now, do you see the one video of the girl? I think we talked about this yesterday that said, "Why are you here?" So I don't know. Why are we here?
I have no idea. Because they gave me a T-shirt and said there was brunch. Yeah, that's the. I would be willing to bet again. I not a lot of money, but the dude with the megaphone that after the police get done starts up the chant again. I think it's a 50-50 shot if he's even a student.
I think you're right, and I'll tell you why. You're probably correct that he's not.
Yeah.
There's this dude.
Yeah.
Who is a paid agitator.
Yeah.
And he comes to every event I'm a part of.
Really? Oh my
Absolutely.
Gosh.
Even ones in DC and ones here. So he's based in New York or in DC. And we've even talked to him before. And some of my friends have taken him out to lunch.
Yeah.
And he was at the March for Life here in Colorado. So he flew out and his job, and he's paid, he'll tell you that his job is to try to disrupt social conservative rallies, that type of thing.
Wow.
And he just walks around with his signs. He never gets violent. I think he's well trained, but he'll step in front of a picture with his pro-abortion signs or you know that type of stuff. But he's a paid agitator.
Interesting. That's in some ways people think that's my role in the show. They're paid to agitate. In some ways, that's interesting. That's an interesting. And how do you put that on your career and your resume? But I think the guy, we could see, was waiting there until the police stopped, and the police were being reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right that it is shocking where the kids, especially the Harvard kids, don't go, oh yeah, well, people do have to have commerce and have jobs, and we're making it difficult for them to go about their daily lives. And surprise, this is not going to convince a single person. There isn't a single person that is going to run across that thinks, I'm not certain. I agree a little bit with, I think Palestine's been, kind of treated unfairly.
Yep.
And I think that maybe the Jewish state's been a little heavy-handed with them. And I'm not certain I like how they're dealing with what's going on in Gaza right now. We do have food issues and medical issues. And I'm not really excited. Oh, this person is blocking my ability to get to work. Obviously, I need to agree with them now. They're preventing me from opening up my shop. Obviously, they're right. They've made their case to me.
Next step, I wonder, if I was them trying to put myself in their perspective on trying to advance this cause, the disruption of the commencements. And that's why USC was like, man, we got to step away from this because you could get a lot of attention that way.
Yeah, you could. And that because of the climate protesters that throw stuff on the pictures. That's the reason. They're not really convincing anybody. They're just getting attention because that 30-second news broadcast is worth tens of millions of dollars of free advertising. And that could be the idea. This would be, I would wish and I would hope that if a commencement was disrupted, that they would be shouted down with boos. And for me, this is not about agreeing or disagreeing with their perspective.
Right.
It's about
time and place.
Yes, that's it. They shouldn't be doing it here. Even if I'm sympathetic to you, the fact that you're disrupting this ceremony, you can get bent. And anybody that's been through a graduation ceremony, I'm not talking about the silly ones we do in the middle schools and the elementary schools. I'm talking about the high schools and the college graduations. Those are endurance tests for parents. So come on, don't make this thing longer.
So for 8 years, I sat on the stage during commencement ceremonies. 8 years for that. And my sole job was just to wear the regalia and make it look professional.
Yeah, that sucks.
I will tell you, a lot of the kids graduating, it's just another step. They've been doing this their entire lives, right? I went from one school to the next school, and those are fun. But there's another set during graduation of the families that made big sacrifices.
Yeah. This is the first person to graduate. This is I had to work 3 jobs. I was a student and dropped out. Yep. They're chasing an avenue that I wasn't, because I wanted to be some sort of a history teacher. I wanted to do this, but I had to go in this direction because that made the money at the time, and I needed to raise the family and whatever it is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And their parents, so much sacrifice made to walk across that stage.
Yeah.
And those are the fun ones, man. The tears, the family going nuts. And when that gets interrupted by this, that's where I get angry and frustrated.
Yeah.
Right.
And even the kids, like, good friend of the show, George Brockler, his son, Trey, who's confined to a wheelchair because of medical condition, the struggles that he has to go through. So the 4 years at the end of the road there means so much more to the Brockler family, even though they are college graduates, because of what Trey had to go through order to get through the system. It was much harder. He had more challenges. So he deserves that space. Also, shout out to George Brockler, endorsed by the Colorado Gazette for 23rd Judicial District.
There you go.
Yeah, nice shout out, George. Appreciate that.
There you go. Men, you've heard a lot about how treating low testosterone can improve your sleep, your workouts, your energy levels, and more. But I want to talk to you about your love drive, because low testosterone can have a significant impact on your desire for intimacy. And if you're in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship, a low love drive can really be a problem. There's good news. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes or no answers, and it only takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, a Colorado licensed medical provider. Will review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment's only $99, which includes medical consult, T and PSA test. If you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. Give them a call today at 720-440-7900. That's 720-440-7900, or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. All right. Surprising poll from Axios, which is not a conservative newspaper. Half of Americans, including 42% of Democrats, say they'd support mass deportations of undocumented immigrants, according to a new Axios Vibes survey by the Harris poll. And 30% of Democrats, as well as 46% of Republicans, now say they'd end birthright citizenship, something guaranteed under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Why does this matter? Americans are open to former President Trump's harshest immigration plans, spurred on by a record surge of illegal border crossings and a relentless messaging war waged by Republicans. President Biden is keenly aware the crisis threatens his reelection. He sought to flip the script by accusing Trump of sabotaging Congress's most conservative bipartisan immigration bill in decades. But when it comes to blame, Biden so far has failed to shift the narrative. 32% of respondents say his administration is most responsible for the crisis, outranking any other political or structural factor. So they have a list here. I've posted this on my Twitter account. It differs based upon race and ethnicity. It differs based upon political affiliation, and it differs based upon generation. So if you're a boomer, 60% of boomers in support of mass deportation, Gen X 53, millennial 48, Gen Z only 35. Republicans 68% support mass deportations. This was a question we asked every single candidate that's come on this show. Do you support mass deportations? And to a T, every single one of them has. Independents, 46, Democrats, 42%. Among the race ethnicity breakdown, white, 56% support mass deportations, 45% of Latinos, and 40% of blacks. So if this is the big issue, and a lot of campaigns come down to many times one big issue, think Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. Think 2006, it's the war in Iraq, stupid. That's what handed Democrats total control of the House and the Senate in 2006. And then I think Barack Obama in 2008, and why Hillary Clinton did not win the primaries, because she supported that back in 2008. In many ways, a single issue can define an election. Is it this issue? And then what happens if we start to implement mass deportations? And you get the footage. So it's always one thing to talk about holding somebody accountable. Think Donald Trump in contempt, holding him accountable. Okay, you want to hold Donald Trump accountable. Are you willing to put the Republican nominee for president in prison? Do you want that image in jail? I mean, do you want that image out there? So give me a call here, 303-696-1971. Phone lines are open. Do you support mass deportations? What would that look like if we did it? Maybe we just start with the criminals. You get busted, popped for something else, we're going to send you out. Drunk driving, assault, murder, rape, you're out of here. We're not going to keep you in our jails. Maybe we start with that, but you've got 11, 12, 13 million illegal immigrants in this country. Some say as high as 22 million. We're going to do a mass deportation of that amount of people? Should we? Give me a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Bill, what do you think of that poll?
Interesting. I think it's an interesting poll. It surprised me in many ways, and then it confirmed what I already knew, that the large American electorate is stupid, that they make decisions not necessarily based in reality or fact. And part of that is later on down in the poll, in the write-up, it talks about the misconceptions, that 64% of the people responding believe that the immigrants receive more welfare and benefits than they pay in taxes. It's not fundamentally true, but 64% of the people, both Republicans and Democrats responding, believe that. Also, they outlined that 56% wrongly believe that the immigrants are linked to higher crime rates and not borne out by the facts. So because the people in this poll have made those incorrect assumptions, it's not surprising they come to these conclusions. However, it also shows me that, and we can talk about both Republicans and Democrats, because I don't sit in either camp, I'm unaffiliated, both of those voter populations make choices based on incorrect information over and over and over. We have decided that our truth is defined by our politics, rather than letting the truth define what we think about our politics. And this is an absolutely crystal clear example of that paradigm.
They also supported and found that, people they have no problem with immigration. It's the illegal aspect of it. 58% said they'd support expanding legal pathways for orderly immigration, while 46% said asylum seekers should be protected if their cases are legitimate. 68% said illegal immigration causes major problems in communities, while only 27% said the same about legal immigration. So it's not legal immigration. That's the issue. It's that they, and I think correctly, believe you come to this country illegally, your first step into our country has been to break a law.
Well, but they incorrectly believe that they get all this free services, and they incorrectly believe
they get some.
That
Look at Denver.
I know, but the idea is that they get more than they pay in taxes, and that's not borne out by the numbers. Same thing in them committing crime. So they both believe, they can believe that this is awful, that they crossed the border and they broke the law, and so they sent home, but they also believe incorrect things about that population as well.
You think So in that argument with Denver spending $90 million on illegal immigrants, you think that's borne out by taxes being paid by illegal immigrants?
I don't know about that specific case. I don't think it would be, but the broad generalization is that the drain that they pull on our services is not greater than what they pay in taxes. And the idea of that going, how do they pay taxes? If you're in the country, necessarily an asylum seeker, they do give you a temporary card. It's not a social security number, but it's a way that you can then file and taxes are taken out of your paycheck. If you come into this country and you take somebody's fake social security number and somebody's identity, somebody else, when you go and you have that job, those taxes are still taken out of your check. Even though you're not that person, those taxes are still taken. So they do. And then when they go out there and they buy things like groceries and liquor and cigarettes, all those taxes are collected from them as well. So that's the balance. Do I think the 90 million in Denver? Probably not. But as a balance, yeah, probably.
Text messages coming in. When you deport everyone, you can call it the Inflation Increase Act of 2024. We currently have an unemployment rate of 3%. I don't believe that's the case. I think people are working multiple jobs. Imagine how much labor cost will rise when you have to pay more to get the same labor force. Thanks for the text 4944. Going through text messages here. I was just about to say that, Jeff. I don't think it's incorrect facts that the latest saying, I think it's just flat that they're here illegally. Yeah. Another thing that gets me is why you would want to come to our country when people don't want you. How in the heck are they paying taxes if they're not working and they can't work for the last 6 months?
Yeah, but I just outlined that. It's taken out of it. And if they're here in the city and they're going to be working, they would be given a temporary ID number, and those taxes would then be taken out of their paycheck. That's how it works.
Every illegal alien, man, woman, and child needs to be evicted immediately.
I would love to have the person call and functionally explain to me how that would happen. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, please help me understand how every one of them is going to be rounded up and taken out of the country. If you believe that's what we need to do, please help Jeff and I understand the processes involved. I would love to hear it. Again, not saying no, we shouldn't in no way, shape, or form. I just don't see the system that effectively can accomplish that. If you have an idea on the system, give me a call, 303-696-1971.
If you support illegal or mass legal immigration, then you are aligning with George Soros and the communists who want to destroy America and create a new world order. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Those are text messages I was just reading. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's go to Mary in Wyoming. Mary, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning. I agree with you, Jeff, that you starting with the criminals would be the first way to start deporting. That's a real easy one. This has been going on for close to 20 years.
Yep.
Nobody talks about the biggest crime against our treasury is that, and I brought this up before and you poo-pooed it, Bill, but they are illegals. Illegals are allowed to claim 10 children on IRS and apply for the earned income tax credit at $1,000 each. Why? Do you understand that they're not marrying anymore because the mother gets able to claim, and they don't have to have 10 children. And the father both claim that. If you look at January, you watch in that population, all the different new cars, etc. They set up a business in Commerce City, new car lots to be able to address that. That has been going on for 20 years. I know it because I worked with them when they got it. I watched them on January make those applications and get $20,000 a family. I know one, he ended up taking his money and starting in Mexico, his daughter, a tortilla shop. In other words, it frustrates me that we don't look, and not only that, we have to, as citizens, we have to not even say anything negative about them coming in. We have to smile and be polite. I think it's terrible that they're allowed to do that.
I disagree that we're told we have to smile and be polite to the illegals, et cetera. And it's not my opinion about the fact that they receive less services than taxes overall across the country. That's what the numbers show. The people that wear the little green, visors and stuff and do the accounting stuff, that's what the numbers show. I'm not sitting here. It's not my opinion on it. It just means as a whole. And remember, if we're talking about 13 million, 20 million, et cetera, they're not all claiming 10 kids. They're not all getting a $20,000 check. Some of them are coming in, like I have an example here at a local lumber yard where guy shows up and he's working. He's found to be illegal, and he's working under another name. He's been paying the FICA taxes and everything else, but he doesn't file the tax return. Eventually gets picked up, taken out of the country, and deported. Shows back up, crosses again illegally under another name. He's hired back at the very same lumber yard. The guy running the lumber yard knows this because now, John has just become George. And now George is employed. It is still not his name, not his social security number. But when the check is cut, he's still paying the taxes. And when he goes out and buys gas, he's still paying the taxes. When he has rent, he's still paying the taxes. When he buys groceries, he's still paying the taxes.
Well, yeah, they do pay taxes on some of it. Do you remember that? And in fact, this is when Ken Buck was applying to run for Congress. He at that time worked on that one in Greeley. That was the time that Obama had that big construction. Remember, they put all that money out that they're going to have do the infrastructure, et cetera. Well, Greeley was a good example. They had one of those day hire kind of things. So the illegals were able to get W-2s. And but they were the ones that were hired on the construction sites.
Yeah,
it wasn't
cheaper.
an American citizen. And that's going to even be more of an issue now on why we want to deport. Jobs, the economy is not growing. And I think that we are all, and many people are having to do two jobs.
Yeah. I'm not certain about that. The economy ain't growing, Mary. I'm not certain about that. GDP
1.3% last month.
Yeah, 1.3% last month, but the previous months have been +2, almost for 3 years now.
But they were part-time. 3,000, it was 303,000 jobs started. Most of them were part-time, indicating
Mary, here's where I go when you say that statistic that they pay more into taxes than the services they receive, and then I look at the financial death spiral that Denver Health is in right now.
Yeah,
isn't that a perfect example of the fact that we don't have the resources coming in and we have too many services going out?
That would be an indication that we have decided to pay for our healthcare system in the most inefficient way possible. That's on us. We set the system up. We have decided that any individual, legal, illegal, that shows up at our emergency room, we are going to treat for free. And it is the most expensive way to deliver care, again, regardless of immigration status. So that's the function of the system.
They are going there. And if they were paying so many taxes, wouldn't we have the money to pay for it?
Well, here's the thing is that does Denver Health draw their money from the larger pool, even federal and everything else? That would be the issue, is where that money's drawn from. And also what is the number of services they provide to illegals versus people that just don't have healthcare insurance and are local. So I would need to see the portion of that number, and then we can talk about where it derives from. But the idea that maybe the pot of money that it goes to Denver Health, the money that I'm paying for my gas taxes, the money that I'm paying and then the rent that the landlord is paying, that doesn't necessarily funnel into the pool of money for Denver Health. If we want to reorder how the money is going, sure, but it is not a proof that the illegals are not paying their taxes. Because this is what it would be. If it was true,
so much debt.
If it was true, then the illegals would be paying taxes at Denver Health, and then you'd have a point on the analogy.
Yeah,
but until then,
the whole idea that all of a sudden they're paying taxes more than they're withdrawing, I think all the financial problems our government is in, I'm not sure bears that out.
But that's what you're saying, but the numbers don't. The actual numbers don't say that.
I'll give Mary the last word. Mary.
Thank you, because I want to go back to that scam that they do about our IRS. Yes, they file taxes, and they file it as low income. So they're not paying a huge amount of tax. In return, they are claiming 10 children they don't have. They are allowed to do it because they are not required to provide Social Security numbers for those 10 kids. You do. They don't, and it's been a scam. Look it up. I am not exaggerating. You can see it is the biggest drain on our treasury is the amount of money that we paid under earned income tax under that, and they're scamming us.
Mary, I appreciate the call. I'll check that out. I really appreciate the call. I always love it when Mary calls.
I love it too.
Mary's line will be open 303-696-1971. We all want a kinder, gentler way to experience wellness and to overcome pain. I'm thriving and fighting back my workout soreness with UltraCur. Up this morning, 4 a.m. with my boys, getting that workout on again. UltraCur helps me. It's a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Surveys show that 50% of people using UltraCur find relief within 48 hours, and half of those within 2 hours. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. UltraCur is fueled by patented technology to give you the true edge to support your peak wellness, energy, and active lifestyle. If you've tried everything without much success, even other natural curcumin products, you owe it to yourself to try UltraCur today. UltraCur gives you unique control over your daily wellness. It's gentle on your stomach. That matters to me, and it's a natural antioxidant. Get curious, Denver. Head to the Natural Grocers and grab your free 3-day UltraCur trial. No strings attached. Wondering about the research? Get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com. Melissa, you're going to be up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
710 traffic. Cans of CI/.
Your KNUS 5-day forecast is a
Kristi style soldier. I fill up my head.
Hold on, Axios. America warms to mass deportations, including 42% of Democrats. What's driving it? They're concerned about increased crime rates, drug and violence, the additional cost to taxpayers, and the risk of terrorism and national security. Those are the greatest concerns kind of driving even 42% of Democrats to support mass deportation. Here's our question to our listeners today. Do you support mass deportation, and what does that look like? Where I think they're going to run into headwinds is the media is going to cover it, and you're going to have, do you remember the little Cuba kid?
Oh, yeah, Elian Gonzalez.
Yeah, and you're going to have kids ripped away and stuff like that. I'm not sure that that's possible. I think you could do it with the criminals. I think you could maybe get it done with young single men that are showing up here, but you start getting the families out.
Yeah. And
I think Americans will turn on it.
And the visual of breaking into a home and searching, but that is always something shocking. And the visual of having, you know, a mom and someone crying and the other part is I'd agree that we need to deport the criminals, but how do you find them? That's the other part is those are going to be the most
at least allow
ones.
Douglas County to check.
And that would be great. That would be great if, and that I think functionally helps, but that's not going through our communities and rooting out all the criminals, because if they are committing crimes and they don't encounter the police, they're still here committing the crimes.
Yeah.
So the smart ones, as our law enforcement friends always say, we don't catch the smart ones. The smart ones are going to be here. So the idea that we're going to be able to go in and sweep out all the criminals.
With the dumb ones.
I am too. Honestly, personally, I am.
Out of here. All right, Melissa Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I was going to add to the previous caller, but just to what you guys just said, I think there's enough criminals that we know of right now that we could do a mass deportation, and nobody should really agree with it. I mean, the guys that are punching the cops at the subway station and stuff like that, why can't they just go without us even scaring the nice ones? But then I want to add to the lady who was talking about it being a scam with the taxes. I really think it is too, because there's no okay, so they get a job where they don't have health insurance, but they're paying taxes for that. But then they get free healthcare services that somebody else who's working at McDonald's doesn't get. So there goes some of our taxes. And then the whole car insurance, everybody's car insurance went up.
Yep.
I mean, and I give blood as much as I can because I'm O negative. Are these people giving blood and at least contributing something into the system? Because it gets taken 5 days after every time I give. And I hope that at least a good percentage of it is American citizens.
Melissa, I appreciate the call. And look, I understand why Americans are frustrated at this point. And when you look at what Denver did, where you're going to cut $8 million from the police, we're going to cut millions here, we're going to cut millions there to create these services. And these aren't basic services. 6 months of apartment complex living, debit cards with food and personal items on it, or with money for food and personal items, 20 hours of legal services, workforce training, all this stuff.
$500 an hour.
And exactly. And so I think people are rightly frustrated that services are going in this direction, not going to the tax-paying citizens. Cities like Aurora saying, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it the other way. So it doesn't surprise me. The only thing that does kind of surprise me is 42% of Democrats. And I wonder if for them, it's more the drugs, crime, violence that is kind of driving 42% to embrace that. Go ahead.
Question. The process that Mayor Johnston has set up, the part of legal services is to get these people into the asylum program.
Yeah,
these people get into the asylum program. They now are temporary tax-paying citizens.
Right.
So now your objection is what?
That they're abusing the asylum program.
So the fix would be
go home.
No, the fix would be to fix the asylum system, because there could be people there.
You definitely can, but these people are abusing it.
But
I think the left has found that as an avenue.
Okay, so question: you are certain that everyone that shows up here at the border claiming asylum is doing it illegally and wrong?
Never said it was everybody.
Well, no, you said they are. You said they are. Yes,
I said they're abusing. I did
a second ago. I just asked you, and you said nope, send them all home. Rather than adjudicating the asylum claims, you just said send them home.
Abusing the system, and they can enter the assignment program in their home state, in their home country. Melissa, go ahead.
I think that was it. You guys pretty much said a lot of. Jeff, you said a lot of what I would want to say.
All right.
Well,
Melissa, I appreciate the call. Melissa from Lakewood. By the way, a week ago today, she was joining us for breakfast.
Yeah, really cool looking
sweater.
That
was fun. She did have a cool sweater.
It's a really cool sweater.
Why do you think 42% of Democrats support this bill?
The same reason that we outlined before, because they have incorrect assumptions about amount of crime they commit, and incorrect assumptions about things like the amount of free services they get. That we have an incorrect perspective about what is going on with the legal and illegal immigrants in our country. And so we make a lot of wrong assumptions. Again, I'm not saying that we need to be open borders and we need to have all the illegals come in. I'm saying the system is broken and we've come to incorrect conclusions. And our incorrect conclusions are leading us to opinions like this and how we're going to vote. Yes, that happens all the time. I can bring a litany of stuff that we've been wrong about in the last 5 years that we've all been certain of at the time.
Jeff in Littleton and Alaska. I don't care about crying illegal mommies. This country needs to grow a set and defend itself. Get them out of here. Lots of text messages coming in. If their kids are underage, they are the responsibility of the parent. If the parents come here illegally, they need to leave. And if they are a responsible parent, they're going to take their children with them. So stronger on the deportation side. Lots of phone calls coming in. See, I think we could get a few here before the break. Let's go to Spencer in Castle Rock. Spencer, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Hey, so do you remember the movie Office Space?
Oh, yeah. I literally watched that 2 days ago. That's one of my favorite.
Milton?
Yeah, right.
My stapler?
Yep.
Bob and Bob, they fixed the glitch. They didn't go to Milton. They didn't say anything to him. They just fixed the payroll glitch.
Yeah.
And they figured the problem would work itself out. You go after the businesses that hire them, and you make the penalties so incredibly steep that nobody would dare hire a person who doesn't have the authorization to work in the country. See, and that's kind of one of my main issues with illegal immigration is I feel like a majority of these people don't want to be Americans. They just want to come here and take advantage of America. So, you know, and I can back that up by saying a lot of these people send money back to where they came from. And one solution that has been presented is to put severe tax on money that's being sent out of the United States back to where these people are immigrating from. You go after the businesses that are hiring them and you make it impossible for illegal immigrants to make money in this country, and they have to go through the right channels and do it the right way in order to work here.
Spencer, I agree with you. And, you know, look, it benefits business. Low wage employment benefits businesses. And so they're not willing to push back on it. Fix the glitch. Appreciate it.
What I like there, Spencer, is it's the economic solution. It is the capitalist solution. It is the idea of they're taking advantage of it based on capitalism. And so if you take away that labor source, the problem can fix itself.
I agree with you.
It's a great point.
All right. Want to talk to you all about my friends at Mountain High Appliance. Hurry in now and check out their Get the Look sales event. Now, for a limited time, you can receive up to a $3,000 rebate with the purchase of select GE Cafe appliances. Enjoy Mountain High Appliance price match guarantee and special financing offers. You can see more if you visit their store, get the details there, and experience the difference at one of Mountain High Appliance's 4 locations in Denver at East 64th, Littleton, Louisville, and Glenwood Springs. Jim, you're going to be up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
710 traffic.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Jim, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, guys. The agriculture states like Texas, California, have the most illegal immigrants, and the primary reason, the primary draw is agriculture. They are the most subsidized, if you want, if that's the accurate word, for illegal immigration. So the primary reason these people are here is to keep our food supply cheap for us do that labor that Americans wouldn't do.
Jim, I know.
And not only that.
Hold on, but I know that like during the 50s, 60s, 70s, that you did have the migrant farmers, and they would come on up, and then they'd go back down, and they'd kind of move with the cycles and that type of thing.
Seasonally.
And yeah, seasonally. And I don't think people have concerns about that. It is, coming to cities now. $90 million that the city of Denver has to spend. This isn't just migrant crop, illegal immigrant work. This is now services being provided so they can be here permanently.
Well, yeah, everybody that's in their 60s and 50s and 40s has taught their kids that work is for immigrants. And they meant it. We're all college bound. And anybody that thinks they want their kid to go out there and turn wrenches or be a plumber is lying to themselves. Success is not having a family that didn't go to college. So listen, there are 80 million baby boomers that are retiring at a rate of 10,000 a day. In 30 years, there's going to be 80 million Americans, the old European Americans in general, that will have left the planet. And you all are talking about deporting another 30 million that are out there having kids en masse. I mean, how many people are we going to have left in this country once your deportations and the natural deaths occur? Are we going to be back down to 150 million?
I mean, but you don't support a totally open border, do you, Jim?
Oh, no, I don't support any of this. I'm just analyzing what's going on.
Yeah.
And if we scream and cry about capitalism for decades on end, and then this is what we're screaming about now, we're being insincere with everyone.
Jim, I appreciate the call
Good
and
point.
the analysis. Jim's line will be open. We're going to continue. We got a whole nother hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here I am talking to our next guest already. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jeff and Bill Show. It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this beautiful Friday, April 26th. I think we're supposed to get a little rain later today. We got some last night out at my place, but
yeah, we did. Oh, I'm setting up for trivia last night.
Yeah,
literally pull into the parking lot. 110% accurate. Get out of the car. Open the back of the car. Downpour within like 30 seconds.
Love that
soaking.
in Colorado.
Yeah, and I'm thinking I didn't bring a jacket. So I'm walking in there going, are they thinking this is some sort of wet t-shirt contest? Because I'm definitely not going to win. It's just, I mean, I'm soaked walking in there and I have to set up the equipment. And you know how well electronics and water go together.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of fun.
Especially when you plug them in.
I know.
In just a minute, we're going to dive into some potential ballot initiatives you're going to see on your ballot. Have we gotten the green light to do what we wanted to do with your ballot there, Bill?
Not yet. We're still talking to legal. Legal hasn't signed off on it yet. We're getting there, but they like the idea.
We'll have something for you on that in a minute, but you're not going to miss this. This is important. This has to do with transgenderism, students, youth, protecting women's sports, all that stuff coming up in just a minute. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. 58, mostly sunny. Expecting highs in the upper 60s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the former president back in court this morning in New York. He definitely won voters with that one. Kristi Burton Brown from Advance, Colorado, on with Jeff and Bill this morning, talking Trump and also talking immunity.
President in office who's lost that ability to be decisive, to come down and say, I'm going to make this decision for the country because with the best information given to me right now, I think this is the right course of action. If they don't have the strength and ability to do that because they have to worry about their own future prosecution, that damages the nation as a whole and our entire system of government.
Supreme Court considering whether Trump is immune from criminal prosecution. And Amy Coney Barrett brought up the best question.
Let me ask you about state prosecutions, because if the president has some kind of immunity that's implicit in Article 2, then that immunity would protect him from state prosecutions as well.
And that's all about Fonnie Willis in Georgia and Alvin Bragg in New York and the ridiculous show trials going on.
With the 12th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Bo Nix, quarterback, Oregon.
Bo Nix is the newest quarterback in Denver, drafted last night. The draft continues today and this weekend.
Nuggets are rolling. They take a 3-0 lead in the series.
Nuggets beat the Lakers again, 112-105, break out the brooms. Avs, game 3 tomorrow against Winnipeg. Rockies beat the Padres 10-9. Tomorrow is CU's spring game. And remember this story about John DeJean. He was the former security guard officer and baseball coach at the high school in Texas, suffered serious spinal injuries when Shiloh Sanders hit him about 8 or 9 years ago. He won an $11.5 million suit. He hasn't seen a dime of it yet. He still has a sense of humor, though. He was on with Jason Whitlock, and he remembers the first time he met Deion Sanders' son, Shiloh. So I wanted you guys to hear this.
I'm at the front desk talking to the receptionist. Here comes a pizza man with 25 boxes of pizza. And I opened the door up for the pizza man. He says, for Shiloh Sanders. I said, Shiloh Sanders? That's Deion Sanders' son. I said, Mr. Pizza Man, I don't know if it was Domino's, Pizza Hut, I don't know what it was, but Mr. Pizza Man, kids are not allowed to order pizza for anybody. It's just against the rules. He's like, okay. So the pizza man turns around. I see Shiloh Sanders running down the hallway. Coach, that's me. I was like, what you talking about? That's you. I ordered the pizza.
So I hear this and I'm listening to the story. And Jeff, you're probably too young, But I'm thinking of one thing, and then the second thing I'm thinking of, I wonder if Billy's thinking the same thing I am. Billy, what do you think of when you hear that?
Well, I was honestly thinking about the idea of where you used to order pizza and have it delivered to your friend's house as a joke.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. Where are you
All
going?
right, here's where I'm going.
Okay.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Order the double cheese and sausage.
Right here, dude.
Mr. Spicoli, you're on dangerous ground here. You're causing a major disturbance on my time.
You know, I've been thinking about this, Mr. Hand. If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time? Certainly there's nothing wrong with a little feast on our time.
It's so good. I forgot about that.
Do you remember that? Okay.
Yes.
So
Oh my God,
much
that's
this,
good.
I'm going Spicoli.
That is Spicoli.
I
I totally
mean,
forgot about that.
Shiloh Sanders caused a lot of trouble in high school. He was I think he's kind of like Spicoli. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like that.
I had
Thank
to
you.
play that. Yes.
Oh God! Now, Blake, did you ever do the pizza joke where you go ahead and you order pizza at somebody
Yes.
else's house? Yes.
Yes.
That was the first thing I thought of.
No,
Yeah,
I did that.
25. Yeah.
I did that one time, and then once I saw my dad's face about an hour later, that was the end of that. So,
oh man.
Okay, thanks for playing along.
We would
Thanks,
dare
man.
our buddies to dress up ridiculous outfits to get the pizza once they came.
Oh
Would you?
God.
Nice.
yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I would have
we had
won
one
that
guy
game.
in a Speedo one time.
Oh, that's little boy stuff. No way.
Jeff,
that is oh, no.
that is.
I can go so much further than that.
Jeff, have you ever seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
I know of the movie.
Okay, well, I have a feeling that you were Spicoli in high school.
He'll get that reference.
Right,
later.
Billy? Yeah, I
Yes,
think you need to
exactly.
check it out. Hey,
That'd be fun.
you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for letting me play that.
Thanks
That
for
was
that,
fun,
man. That was
Blake.
fantastic.
That was
And
great.
What a great, what a great week with you. Okay, now you got to say your word stuff, or I can't push the button, Blake.
Okay, here we go. 53 in Louisville, 55 in Lone Tree, 58 in Denver, and Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
KNUS 5-day forecast is a cool one this Friday. Some brisk winds, a little shower or thunderstorm activity in the afternoon. We'll be looking at increasing light to moderate, a little bit of some heavy rain Saturday and early Sunday, wet, heavy snow up into the higher foothills in the mountains. Temps today, mid-60s, stiff northwest winds, 10 to 30. Lows tonight, low 40s. Upper 40s to low 50s for highs Saturday. Mid to upper 50s Sunday. 60s to 70s for highs Monday into Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer on 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us in studio live is Lori Gimelshteyn. She is the executive director of the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network. That organization is a collaborative statewide network in which parents, stakeholders, and educators can purposefully work together to restore a rigorous, non-political, safe, and fulfilling educational experience for all students. They're part of an effort to have a series of ballot initiatives that will end up on your ballot to vote on this November. They're going through a pretty big process right now because the left today, they don't like these ideas. Lori, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So tell us what ballot initiatives you all are working through the process and where are they in the process?
Absolutely. So closer.
Yep, there you go.
Erin Lee and I are in a wonderful organization called Protect Kids Colorado. People can learn more about that at protectkidscolorado.org. We're seeking to protect parent rights here in the state of Colorado. Our current legislature, the majority do not support parent rights. They do not view parents as the people that have the best interest of their child. And so we actually don't agree with that. And we believe that parents know and understand their child best and has their child's best interest in mind. And
you're not exaggerating that, because I have sat down in these meetings and down at the state capitol, and they explicitly say, these radical LGBTQ activists say that parents are a threat to their children. parents are a threat to their children because they believe in biblical values or even just traditional values that a man can't become a woman, that type of thing. And then they will use the excuse that if we don't get these parents out of the way, these kids will kill themselves. I mean, it is, they really do see parents as a threat. So sorry, please continue. I wanted to affirm this isn't hyperbole.
Right. Absolutely. And I do think that your listeners need to know that that narrative exists, that the narrative that parents are a threat to their child's well-being is an emotionally persuasive argument that they're using to weaponize people's kindness. And the truth of the matter is, we believe parents have the best interest of their children in mind. And so what Erin Lee and I have done is we've gone before what's called Title Board. The state of Colorado is one of 24 states in the nation that citizens like us can bring forth initiatives to go on the ballot for the good people of Colorado to vote on. And we've been going to Title Board since January to try to bring 3 parental rights initiatives for the voters to vote on. One, so that parents can consent to the medical and mental health treatment of their child up until the child's emancipated. One, for the parent to be able to have access to review the materials their child has access to in their school. And one that we did finally prevail at the Supreme Court, which is Initiative 142. And what this initiative does is it gives parents the right to be notified. So this is a parental notification initiative, and it allows parents to be notified if their child is experiencing what we call gender incongruence at school. So that means that their child at school has mentioned to a teacher, a nurse, a coach, a counselor, or a public school administrator, that they feel like maybe that they are in the wrong body and they're questioning their gender identity. And we know when children are going through a very complex emotional issue around their gender identity, that their parents are the most valuable resource because, again, they know and understand their child best and they know how to best help them. And right now in the state of Colorado, multiple public school districts are hiding this information from parents. And they do it under the guise of being kind and inclusive because, again, there's this false narrative that parents can't be trusted with this information. And at the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network, we have an incident reporting tool on our website. And weekly, we receive incident reports from families that are being harmed by these practices to hide these gender transitions, children coming forward and sharing their personal testimony that they felt compelled to have to change genders to fit in or to belong. And then they get down this track of where they've transitioned their name and their pronouns. They might be using a different bathroom in the school or locker room facilities, and now they don't know how to come back. They realize maybe that they made a mistake. They don't know what to do. They can't tell their parents because the school told them not to. So this bill really just allows parents the right to be notified.
Talking with Lori Gimelshteyn, she's the executive director of the Colorado Parent Advocacy Network, on a series of ballot initiatives you may see on your ballot this November. Now, was there one that was going to protect women from men in sports? What happened to that one?
Yeah, so that is initiative number 160, and that was brought forth by proponents Dr. Rich Guggenheim, who is with the Colorado chapter of Gays Against Groomers, and Linda White, who is the founder of Grandparents for Kids.
Yeah.
And what this initiative sitting right now, we're pending a Supreme Court ruling to determine if this title will be allowed to go to petition for the voters to decide if they'd like it to go on the ballot. And what this will do, it will protect girls' sports. So it will basically put protections in place to make sure that girls' sports are protected from biological males that have transitioned to women or girls from participating in those sports. So we're really eager and hopeful that will prevail, just like we did on 142 on 160.
So it looks like maybe one for sure if you get the signatures, right? Mm-hmm. So the parental notification if you get the signatures, will be on the ballot.
Correct. So we need to get 125,000 verified signatures. Our goal is to secure over 200,000 signatures so that we can make sure that when the Colorado Secretary of State cures the petitions, that we have the verified signatures. What that means is that they're a registered voter and that their signature on the ballot looks like their signature on their state issued ID. And if we are able to get that number of signatures, now we're limited, we have to turn them in August 3rd, and all the roadblocks that we've endured trying to get title for this has limited the amount of time that we have to walk and get people to sign. So we just encourage all your listeners to get engaged, sign up at protectkidscolorado.org. You can learn how to be a volunteer. You can carry a petition to help us get signatures.
Protectkidscolorado.org. August 3rd is the deadline. Are you paying petitioners?
We are not.
All volunteer.
This is an all volunteer effort.
It's a big mountain to climb.
It's a big mountain to climb. And, I pray that we're able to get the number of signatures that we need. But what it will also tell us is it will give us some great data on what our grassroots efforts are capable of doing. And I just see so many people joining Colorado Parent Advocacy Network and Protect Kids Colorado and other like-minded organizations that are part of this broader coalition of people coming together to protect kids and protect parents. And I'm just excited to see this movement in Colorado. The culture is shifting.
So since they don't, and take this as somebody who has this experience, since they aren't relying on paid signature gatherers, it's going to take a lot of volunteers. It's going to take people taking this to their churches, taking it to their schools, taking it to their women's Bible studies, whatever it might be. This is only going to get on the ballot if the listeners of this show actually participate in it. So again, website protectkidscolorado.org, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just pulled it up. Now, the parental notification is really interesting to me. We, years ago with the Centennial Institute, there was an effort to get rid of parental notification around any type of counseling that a kid was going through. And this was a battle that Daphne Michelson, Janae, and I had, right? So the argument she made was kids come into a counseling session and are saying, I'm going to kill myself. And the counselor had to stop the conversation and go, let me get a hold of your parents before I can continue the conversation. That was her argument. So we need to allow counselors in the midst of a crisis to help the kid facing the crisis without having to pause, go get parental notification. I said, okay, I get that. Like if a kid's about to jump out the window, you don't want to have to call the parents to get permission to stop that from happening. I understand your concern, but it wasn't really what their concern was. Because what we came back with, and we had lobbyists, was, all right, how about you have that initial meeting and you protect the kid's safety and then you call the parent to get the notification. That was rejected. So then we said, how about 2 meetings? We'll give you 2 meetings. That was rejected. All right, how about 6 meetings? You can meet with the kid 6 times without notifying the parent. We would be okay supporting it. They didn't care. They had enough people. They want unlimited meetings. Your kid in Colorado can begin a counseling session with a counselor in their school an unlimited amount of times, and the parent has no idea that's happening. And what was so bizarre to me was I'm sitting there as a parent going, I want to know if my kid is going into counseling, telling you they have problems. I'm not a problem. I want to be part of the solution. Invite me into the solution that my child is facing. Don't keep me out from it.
Correct.
So, I mean, I understand that this concern that these, in this case, trans kids or kids going through gender dysphoria are not being told, their parents are not being told. I mean, that's just amazing to me. So would it affect all counseling or just trans gender dysphoria stuff?
So our initiative number 142 is specifically designed to notify parents if their child is experiencing gender incongruence at school. So it's specifically on that one notification.
Okay, that's key. I mean, I wish we could go back and adjust the entire thing, but that's going to need us electing Republicans, which is going to take a little while. So that's initiative 142. Initiative 160 would protect women from men competing in sports, which I think we're finally going to turn the corner on that. But you said there was another one that you're working through. Give me the details on that one again, please.
So we're working on 2 additional. Last week, we actually also received approval by the title board. We prevailed at the motion for rehearing on wording in initiative number 205, which is very similar to 142. It basically same thing, allows parents to be notified if their child's experiencing gender incongruence at school. But we tightened the language down a little bit just to make sure that there was a proper protocol to help the school be able to notify the parents. So we'll see if that goes to the Supreme Court.
Typically, they blend them. If you end up with 2 ballot initiatives that are very similar, they'll blend them, right?
We did not blend them. The language, it has a separate title on 205. And we are anticipating to find out today if there has been a motion to the Supreme Court to repeal the title board's decision on 205.
Okay.
But that we received title on that as well. But the other 2 are really just guided around parents' rights to direct the upbringing and education of their child. If parents don't know what's going on, how can we best help our child?
Yeah.
So, and we lost title. Originally, the title board did grant us a title on a parent's right to be able to review the materials their child has access to at school and school-sponsored events.
That's right.
And
Review
then,
material.
Yeah. And then there was a motion for rehearing put forth by Mark Gruskin. We lost at title board last week. They took away our title. They said that it was multiple subjects. And then they did the same on our title for parents to be able to consent. Can you imagine? You don't have the right to consent to your child's mental and medical health treatment. And we want to give parents that authority back, that up until your child is emancipated, up until age 18 or emancipation, you are the one making those decisions to help your child.
Well, and they're finding that even just taking puberty blockers isn't as innocent as they were originally saying. Like, oh, yeah, you can reverse that. No big deal. No, there's actually some long-term effects.
There are significant complications of medical transition.
Yeah.
And, we say social transition is transition. It is the gateway to medical transitioning. And we just hosted the Rocky Mountain Summit on safeguarding children from gender-affirming care. And Dr. Travis Morrell, who is a medical doctor, he has performed transgender surgeries, spoke specifically around the complications that impact children that go on hormone blockers. And in the state of Colorado, they recommend starting that at age 8. Did you know that if a child starts on hormone blockers, I didn't know this. If a child starts on hormone blockers between the ages of 8 to 12, they will never gain sexual function. So when they are an adult, they will not to be able to enjoy intimacy with their partner. And
wow.
Your listeners can actually watch the trailer and the full program of our summit on safeguarding children for gender affirming care at cpan.vhx.tv.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know that because you're and I see there's this study that's come out of England that said, most people will revert back to their original sex as they get older in life. And that these hormones do have an impact. So
brittle
I did
bones,
not know.
reduced brain development. It has great impact on a child's development.
So you're waiting. One got shot down. That was the one on reviewing material.
Correct.
We're not going to see that one this year.
No.
And to help people understand this, they may not know this, but that the LGBTQ organizations really fought hard against you guys just even submitting these ideas, right?
Correct. There's an organization called One Colorado, and their purpose is to promote LGBTQ they say, support for the community. But we all have to come and recognize that the LGBT community has really been hijacked. So you're going to see our opponents advocating against our initiative for parents to be notifying, saying it's anti-LGBTQ. Absolutely not. There can be nothing more beneficial for a child that is questioning their gender identity than to have the engagement and support of their parents. Are we to assume that children only need support when they're on school property? No, they're with their parents all the time, and they need to be able to have open communication. And so when you hear that it's I encourage your listeners to defend that. Tell me why that's anti-LGBT.
So material out, parental consent in. But there's multiple parental consent ones, right?
The parental consent is not in. The only one we have secured to go on the ballot is a parent's right to be notified.
Got it. Okay.
And if people want to get engaged and help us, because this is going to be a long time movement. We're talking decades of work for the people of Colorado to protect our fundamental right to direct the upbringing and education of our children.
But how about the Parents' Bill of Rights?
So yes, Representative DeGraff just brought HCR 24-1005, the Parent Bill of Rights, to committee on this past Monday. It was defeated. All the Democrats voted against it. The Democrats do not believe parents should have a Bill of Rights. And it really brought in a lot of the language that Aaron and I are trying to get on the initiative from a citizen's perspective, that really just allows parents, as I keep saying, the right to direct the upbringing and education of their child.
Now, social conservatives, me being one, have been on the wrong side of pretty much every ballot initiative in the state of Colorado for the last 10 years. Pot, doctor-assisted suicide, when we tried to ban late-term abortions. I have come to terms with the fact that I live in a state where my social conservative values are not embraced by my peers in the state. So, what is the likelihood that this stuff is successful?
I can't truly predict that. The truth of the matter is organizations like One Colorado have millions of dollars that they're able to spend, and they're able to trick people through, really carefully curated advertisement that's very emotionally persuasive and pulls on your heartstrings. But I encourage people, think logically about this. How many parents are killing their children? None. It's not happening. How many parents do you know that are bad parents? Probably none. All parents love their child. I was driving into Denver the other day, and I'm just watching all these families, walking down the sidewalk, holding their kids' hands. A parent is charged to protect their child, and a parent is the first person that loves them and will always take care of them.
Talking with Lori Gimelshteyn. She is the executive director of Colorado Parent Advocacy Network. If you want to be involved with the campaign, you can go to protectkidscolorado.org. You can donate there. To your point, the other side has a tremendous amount of money, and versus our side. I remember when we were debating gambling, I was like the only guy in the state of Colorado being like, maybe sports gambling is not good. And reporters were asking me, well, who's giving to this? And I was like, I don't think anybody is. And who else is against this? And I'm like, I don't think anybody else is. I'm the only one out there on this. So those of us that are kind of, and you don't even have to be a social conservative. I am, obviously, and our family is, my wife is. So we would support this and want to get behind it. But I think independents, moderates, would be willing to support it too. I mean, Bill, I'll put you on the spot here. Parental notification for kids that want to transition.
I'm a yes and a no, and it's because of both the pro side and the opposition side. I believe both of them are working towards a generalization that isn't practical. And what I mean by that are, I agree in large part that the parent should be notified, but I don't think it universally, the parent always has the best interest in the student, and universally we can assume is always loving and caring the best for students. I have numerous examples, and again, they're anecdotal, across public school systems here, where you look at how the kids are treated, how they come to school, what they deal with, the home life. You can't make the argument to me that they love, care, and are looking out for the best interests of their child. And so that, I think, is the other generalization I have is the idea that the parents are necessarily going to be open, understanding, and supportive if the child is expressing some questions about their gender. And the reason I am so sensitive to this is because a friend of mine, again, anecdotal, a friend of mine in high school who came out to her parents was beaten up by dad. No kid of mine.
That would be abuse.
But again, no kid of mine is going to be gay. That was the issue. So I can see, in again, a small portion of cases, the kid that is having a gender confusion, a problem with how they feel, that it can lead to a very, very abusive, either psychologically or physical, a situation. And that's the thing, is in this, I have a heart to try and protect the kids. Do I say that the parents should never be notified? No. But the question I have is, inside of this, I see no allocation for a child that is genuinely expressing, I am afraid my parents are going to hurt me if they find out. And when the state says we have to then notify the parents, I have an issue with that.
I'd love to respond to that. And, my heart breaks for any child whose parents are not open to discussion and care. But when you said there's no allocation in the bill to protect children from the situation, that's because that allocation already exists. And that is through Colorado, the Colorado, I can't think of the organization in terms of protecting children, protective services. And in schools, teachers, staff, district administrators are all what we call mandatory reporters. So in those instances where a child says, I'm afraid that my parents are going to hurt me, they're going to kick me out, they're going to kill me, we have a system in place where we are required. I'm a speech language pathologist. I've worked in private practice for 2 decades. I'm a mandatory reporter. When I have a concern about a child's well-being and safety regarding neglect or abuse, I am required by law, by my licensing, just like every teacher and district administrator and counselor is required to report that to Colorado Protective Services for Children. And so that is actually not a valid argument against notifying parents. And then the other argument that we hear is that this is confidentiality, right? This child deserves to have a confidential conversation with a counselor. And we agree confidentiality is sacrosanct. But when the well-being of a child is at risk, there is what we call a duty to inform. And it's part of our ethics to notify that child's parent. And so the other side of that is, if that's the argument, then why are these same counselors and teachers and district administrators producing gender transition plans that we've uncovered in multiple school districts across the state? So they're saying in one line, this has to be confidential. This is, this is mental health care. And then they're notifying all of the child's staff at that school and requiring children to be a part of this. So they're not hiding it from anyone else except for the parents.
Yeah, and I think that also that talks about some of the issues that I have inside of that, because one being, if we can protect or keep the information from the parent by claiming some sort of a situation, we would assume they would be instructed to do that. The second being, if a student comes to you and says, I'm feeling this way and I'm worried about how my parents will react, that's not an abusive situation. It could lead to one, and the child could be afraid, but you also wouldn't be required to be a mandatory reporter at that time. However, you could turn around and inform the parents, and then something bad can happen. That's the unintended consequence. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue that I have inside of this. So I understand the mandatory reporter side of it. I have people in my family that are mandatory reporters because of involvement in the school system. But in that situation where the kid is afraid of how mom and dad are going to react, not an abuse situation, but now in some ways you could end up putting them in danger. And I don't think there's a perfect answer for it either.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a perfect answer, but I do think that to blanket statement that this should be hidden from parents because of the possibility of that happening is definitely not a good idea. I think that we should err on the side that parents love their child and want to help them. And again, we do have those systems in place if abuse were to happen or neglect were to happen. And I think we just need to come together and logically think about this. Why would we keep secrets from parents? Why?
Oh, I understand. I don't agree with you with them keeping it from the parents, but I think that while you're talking about the blanket statement, I think that the mandatory reporting of a gender question to the parents is also a blanket statement, is also the same generalization you're worried about on the other end. And for me, it is the margins that I am worried about. Mm-hmm. And I see both programs being ineffective to help the people that I am most concerned about. And I again push back on the idea that all the parents, again, you said most, but that parents are always loving and benevolent to their children. Again, regardless of the abuse situation, I have friends that were kicked out of their house in the 80s and 90s because they were gay. That is not love and understanding in any way, shape, or form. They went through horrible psychological issues because of it. And it was just because of this. And coming out and saying you're gay to me is fairly analogous to saying that I'm transitioning. And so that's what I'm worried about, are those issues on the fringes. And I figure both sides are just making this blanket and aren't dealing with it. That's the problem I have.
Yeah, I would say, 35, 40 years ago, we've made tremendous gains and progress in our communities being accepting and understanding of our friends and family members and, children who identify as LGB. And so I would say in 2024, we're in a very different place than we were in the 80s and 90s. And I think that's exciting and it's great. And I think that what this bill does is it provides the necessary supports in place for the parents to be notified about what's happening with their child and for that child to have the best supports in place. As a parent, I have 2 teens, and both children have when they have a medical concern or a mental health concern, it's my job as a parent to find them appropriate care. So I reach out to the professionals that can help us through a situation. And there have been times in my children's lives where I've come across a therapist that did not work for my child. Actually was causing more harm than good. And I think we need to think about that piece too, because in every profession, there are bad professionals. And they do not always have the interest in mind of the child.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right about the idea of the mental health care. And it is incredibly difficult to evaluate that with the child. And only because, and again, I think you're completely right about that sometimes the therapist is not the right fit for the child. But unfortunately, sometimes the child has said, well, mom and dad said I go here just like I go to the doctor, just like I go to the school. So maybe what I'm feeling is more me, even though the relationship is broken, that maybe what I'm seeing is I just don't understand the relationship. And so they continue with the bad therapy. And you're right. That is a downward spiral. You're 110% right about the dangers there. Oh, one more thing, Jeb, when you talked about what it was like 20, 30 years ago with the lesbian and gay community, you're absolutely right that it's different now. However, I see the same issues popping up in the trans community. The same issue about why do they have to put it in my face? Why do I have to acknowledge them? Why do I have to live with their mental illness? Don't they understand they're sick? And that's what we said about the gay people 20 years ago. That's the reason I'm so sensitive on this, because I see the cycle repeating and I'm worried about where we're headed with it.
Lori, response?
Yeah. I just think that we have to kind of look at the data as well, right? So people that experience gender dysphoria, it's a very, very small number. And we're seeing that number explode, especially in middle school girls. So when you look at the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistic Manuals, when you look at the qualifying criteria for gender dysphoria, it typically happens in early childhood development, like around age 2 or 3, you start to see this, right? And there are many indicators prior to this happening. And with the majority of these very small percentage of people that experience true gender dysphoria, that when they go through puberty and they grow up, that they are gay or they outgrow it. And now what we're doing is we're affirming this model of care, which has, by the way, been recently proven to be fraudulent and full of malpractice, to transition children before puberty, to halt their puberty. Puberty is a necessary component of development. It is critical for brain development to go through puberty. It's critical for your bone development to go through puberty. And we're stopping that, and we know that this is causing harm. So I guess the question that I put back to you is, why are we seeing an explosion of children who believe they are transgender in middle school girls?
Yeah. And it's a great point. And I agree with you that many, not say many, but there is a portion or a significant portion of them that are either misdiagnosed or are given, I don't know, permission, it's the wrong word, but the idea is that they're going through something else other than true gender dysphoria and transitioning. Absolutely. And that's why I will stand right next to you and support you on the idea that there are no puberty blockers, no surgery before 18, nothing like that, because they are children. All of us here have seen the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. They don't make the great choices. We have kids that have made very bad choices. So no, we don't put that in there, but they can express that. And if they wanted to, I see that if they wanted to be referred to as the other gender, absent the medical intervention, okay. I think that's okay. The reason I think we have an explosion is in part because of what you're saying, the idea how it has been defined, and you're absolutely right that there's many fraudulent examples as far as it being more of a push towards it rather than a reaction because of it. And we need to absolutely root that out. I also think that a portion of that segment is because it is more accepted. Just like the idea of when we went from the 40s to the 80s, where'd all these gay people come from? They've always been here. It's just now they're allowed to tell you. But again, that is not the entire portion of the pie. Mm-hmm. And I would be willing to submit that I would guess at least 50% of that pie is misdiagnosed. They're going through something else, but feel this way. And I think that's absolutely right. And I think you're right about there are portions of the psychological and medical community that are looking for this to be an advocate rather than helping them transition. They're trying to push them that way, and we've seen it even in the schools. So again, I can be with you on 90% of this, but I'm really worried about those people in the margins that I feel will be unintentionally hurt. And that's where I have my biggest concerns.
Lori Gimelshteyn, she's the executive director of Colorado Parent Advocacy Network. If you want to be a part of her campaign, there's a series of ballot initiatives. Protect children, protect women in sports, protect parental notification, all that stuff. Go to protectkidscolorado.org. That's protectkidscolorado.org. Thank you to both of you for a great conversation.
Well,
thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
So much fun.
Give us a call. What do you think about that? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Would you sign the petition to get this on the ballot? Would you support this? Parents need to be notified if their kids are going through gender transition. 303-696-1971. We'll be back. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following. Accusers of former Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein have expressed dismay that his 2020 rape conviction has been overturned by a New York panel of judges. The ruling cited egregious errors in his trial, in which Weinstein was found guilty of sexual offenses against 3 women. Weinstein remains in jail for now while a judge decides whether he should face a retrial. Chinese President Xi Jinping says the U.S. and China should be partners, not rivals. He was speaking at a meeting with Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who also held talks with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Laura Westbrook reports from Hong Kong.
Antony Blinken stressed that having face-to-face talks with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi was vital. He said their meeting was part of efforts to responsibly manage competition. And while they did discuss areas of difference, they also discussed areas of shared interest, including counter-narcotics. Wang Yi said the relationship had stabilized, but China's development had been unreasonably suppressed. He said the world would be watching to see whether the two countries would choose confrontation or cooperation.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Julia Chapman in London on Salem News Channel. At this hour in London, I'm Julia Chapman, and here are the top stories we're following.
And when
That was a great conversation, Bill. I thought you and Lori did great.
Really cool.
Text messages coming in, people wanting to sign up. If you want to be a part of the campaign, and again, it gets a little confusing because there's been so many lawsuits. They started with a handful of ballot initiatives, but then they were sued by one Colorado, and now they're working their way through that. Parental notification as it relates to kids being transitioned. That's going to be one of them. They think that the other one that'll be on will be around keeping men out of women's sports, especially youth. You know, I think it'll be K through 12. I don't think it'll get past high school with that ballot
I
initiative.
think for me, I'd be okay with co-ed or whatever up until beginning of middle school, up until like 5th grade, because then physically, not as much of a difference per se. But if we just want to go K-12, fine, K-12.
If you want to join her campaign effort, a lot of text messages on this, protectkidscolorado.org. That's protectkidscolorado.org. Sign up there and be a part of that effort. So I hope they're successful. I've been a part of a lot of these conversations down at the state capitol. I think the way that the political winds have blown in the state with the Democrats in control, they've gone way over on the other side where parents are being forced out of conversations. I mean, unlimited counseling without parental notification. It's crazy to me.
I liked your example there, and I would have loved to hear what the pushback again from the Democrats would be on the unlimited and why they wouldn't take it. Because, again, the people I'm talking about on the margins, those are the ones I'm worried about. And I do believe that there is a point where a child might need unlimited counseling because of things that could happen or are happening inside the home. But I disagree that we make that a broad generalization, that if I was on the other side of that and you brought that proposal to me, we would look at what that carve out is. You know, what is that point of the exception that says, okay, this makes sense to notify the parents and should be notified, but in these instances, we need to make an exception. And then this is, we can go back to the really touchy subject of abortion. The idea of, is it universal, or do you have exceptions for life of the mother, or rape or incest? That's the idea. Those are the margins. If we're not willing to address the margins, we get into these kind of discussions.
I've got something truly special to share with you, Bill.
Really?
Ever dreamt of effortlessly transforming your home into a haven of organization and efficiency?
Oh, every day when I get home.
Well, listen up, because I got just the solution for you. Roll 'em out shelves. Let me paint you a picture of my recent experience with Joyce and Brent from Roll 'em out shelves. It was like having family walk through my door. Seriously, these folks are just professionals. They're meticulous and oh so personable. They care. They're hardworking, dedicated to the details. It was like having my mom and brother right there beside me, kind, considerate, always making sure everything was right. Let me tell you, their attention to detail is unparalleled. They measured every nook and cranny, asked all the right questions, and ensured that every drawer and shelf was tailor-made to fit my needs perfectly. The result? Say goodbye to chaos and hello to beautifully organized shelves, showcasing everything I need. But here's the best part. You don't have to break the bank for this transformation. For less than $1,000, you can embark on your very own home makeover journey with Roll 'em Out shelves. And let me assure you, these shelves are built to last, crafted with sturdy Baltic birch, built right here in Colorado, and backed by a lifetime guarantee that you can trust. your space will stay organized for years to come. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call today at 303-475-9601. Give Roll 'em Out Shelves a call at 303-475-9601 or visit their website, rollemoutshelves.com. That's rollemoutshelves.com for a free in-home estimate. All right, we'll be back. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
710 traffic.
It's been an absolutely fire show today. I appreciate all the callers and texts. If you came in, you were part of this conversation, we appreciate it. There's no other show in Colorado like this. You tune into any of the other stations, you'll just get someone reading the news to you or giving you a monologue. Here on the Jeff and Bill Show, 710knus.com, you are part of the conversation. So thank you to everybody for an entirely great week. 6 a.m., we hosted Kristi Burton Brown. She gave us an update on the Trump trials and the Supreme Court arguments that took place yesterday. Dave Olesky from the DEA joined us in the 7 a.m. hour to remind you Saturday's National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. So if you want to be a part of that, you can go to takebackdea.gov, something like that. But go to the DEA.gov website. They have details there for that. 8 o'clock hour, we got into some good debates and discussions, especially over this poll that Americans are warming to mass deportations. And in the 9 o'clock hour, Lori Gimelshteyn joined us. She's the executive director of Colorado Parent Advocacy Network. We talked about a series of ballot initiatives you are going to be voting on, protecting parental rights when it comes to children in transitioning. So great show. If you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com. That's 710knus.com. Coming up just after us, Charlie Kirk, followed by Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, Officer Tatum, Jay Sekulow, Mark Levin. It's a great afternoon on 710KNUS. So stick around. Thank you to everybody again. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.